High above the city skyline, a tense standoff unfolded inside a glass-walled conference room. Beyond the glass, office gossips lurked. A pink-haired coworker practically pressed her face against the window, desperate for the tea. Her dark-haired colleague whispered the brutal truth. That was Xiaohei's girlfriend, and she was here to crush his heart. The pink-haired girl gasped in pure shock. Who drops a nuclear breakup bomb right in the middle of the workplace? She muttered that the chick was absolutely savage. Meanwhile, inside the soundproof walls, the icy X glared at Xiaohei. She spat that being tied to a pathetic loser was suffocating her. Hei just blinked, completely oblivious to her blazing fury. Her venomous words struck deep. She called his very existence sickening, leaving our guy completely paralyzed by the sheer disrespect. She sneered, admitting she only dated him because she thought he possessed a spark of hidden cultivation talent. Sure, he bombed the academy entrance exams, but his bloodline belonged to a once legendary, now fallen clan of ancient cultivators. Yet after all this time together, his so-called legendary lineage remained absolutely dead, a total dud. She screamed that he hijacked 3 months of her prime, robbing her of chances with actual, high-tier immortal young masters. Hei shrank under her intense aura. He softly fired back, reminding her he drained his entire life savings to shower her with premium spirit stones and rare artifacts. That triggered a total meltdown. She shrieked that those pathetic trinkets held barely a drop of actual spiritual power. Absolute garbage. She ruthlessly compared them to a dazzling earring gifted by the filthy rich young master Lai. That artifact pulsed with divine energy. It banished curses, formed a flawless energy shield, and seriously leveled up her visuals. Outside, the pink-haired coworker literally shattered her plastic mouse in secondhand rage. The loud crack made the X snap around. Unfazed, the pink-haired girl barked right through the glass, slamming the gold digger for crossing the line. Her dark-haired friend panicked, yanking her back. She hissed a warning, reminding her their cultivation department KPI was still tragically low. Getting tangled in other people's drama was career suicide. Back inside, Hei's expression hardened as he dropped his nice guy act. The toxic X whipped her gaze back. Hei coldly demanded every single item returned. Pure wrath exploded as she launched out of her seat. Trembling like a ticking time bomb, she unleashed a venomous curse, damning him to rot as a mortal failure and die screaming. She stormed out like a hurricane. Without missing a beat, Hei casually yelled to just ship the loot, if carrying it was too tough. Echoing down the hall, she screeched that she would rather dump it all in the ocean than return a single coin. Hei genuinely shouted back, asking for the exact coordinates, refusing to let good gear go to waste. The pink-haired girl instantly found him fascinating. Her colleague slapped her arm, hissing at her to stop staring. One more second of slacking, and their demon manager would jump scare them. Speak of the devil. A chilling voice crawled up their spines, demanding answers. It was Zhang Ziqian, the ruthless boss of the cultivation sector. He instantly grilled her about the monthly quotas. Before she could stutter an excuse, Ziqian's sharp eyes locked onto Hei, who was slumped over. The pink-haired girl jumped to his defense, explaining he just survived a brutal dumping. He just needed a minute to respawn his mental health. Ziqian's eyes darkened, but he stayed silent. Fast forward to sunset. Hei was dangerously dangling his legs off the towering rooftop. A sudden voice asking about lunch made him flinch. He turned to see Ziqian stepping from the shadows, smoothly asking if the heartbreak was stinging. The manager suddenly tossed him a cold soda. Hei caught it, completely baffled. This old tyrant usually glared at him like trash. Why play the nice guy now? Chugging the drink without a second thought, Hei suddenly felt a heavy, intoxicating wave crash over his senses. Stumbling to his feet, he threw his arms wide. He roared into the sky that the leech drained his wallet and stabbed his back. He screamed for her karma. Venting felt amazing. He slurred a genuine thank you, shocked his icy boss actually possessed a heart for his struggling team. But the relief vanished instantly. The world violently spun out of control. A terrifying realization hit him. The drink was spiked. As he dropped the can, the polished aluminum reflected Ziqian's twisted, demonic smirk. Darkness swallowed Hei completely as he hit the concrete. Hours vanished into the void. Groaning through a splitting headache, Hei forced his eyes open, finding thick iron chains binding him to a jagged cliffside. Footsteps echoed in the gloom. Ziqian stood above him, watching like a predator. Panicking, Hei desperately asked if this was some twisted misunderstanding. The manager opened his mouth to reveal his dark plot, but Hei instantly killed the vibe, shouting he was definitely not into freaky kink stuff. A brutal punch instantly shut him up. Annoyed by Hei's pathetic humor, Ziqian grabbed his hair. He forced his head down, commanding him to stare into the terrifying abyss below. Deep within the pitch-black chasm, two glowing, monstrous eyes snapped open. The massive shadow shifted, rising from the depths to reveal a legendary, terrifying dragon. Ziqian bowed, offering Hei up to the divine dragon lord. He assured the beast that despite being unawakened trash, His flesh still contained the insanely rare spiritual root of an ancient, supreme bloodline. That hidden essence made him 1,000,000,000 times tastier than standard livestock. Pleased, the colossal beast tossed over the legendary condensation pill they had bargained for. 𝖳𝖺유피이 vanished to trigger his major breakthrough. Left behind, 𝖬 froze as the divine dragon suddenly spoke directly to him. Facing death, 𝖬 just locked eyes with the beast. His final words? "Bro, your breath is absolute trash." He literally told the mythical creature to use a toothbrush. Outraged by this insane disrespect, the dragon roared, proclaiming itself the Lord of Clouds, the absolute ruler of the 9 heavens, the bringer of thunder, rain, and the undisputed conqueror of the 4 seas. Furthermore, it boasted about 3,000 years of deep abyss cultivation, plus 80,000 years ruling the skies. Suddenly, the ancient beast felt totally awkward for losing its chill. Flexing on a basic mortal felt extremely beneath its dignity. Snatching 𝖬 up, the monster ditched its usual one-bite execution style. Instead, it opted for maximum torture, slowly grinding him to dust, piece by piece. 𝖬 immediately screamed out a massive objection. The beast mocked his late begging. But 𝖬 deadpanned that his raging athlete's foot would completely ruin the dragon's majestic oral hygiene. He warned the mighty creature that the foul foot stench would permanently curse its legendary mouth forever. Imagine waking up, tasting your toxic ex's gym socks. Furious, the dragon commanded him to shut his trap, mercilessly clamping its massive jaws down. With half his torso violently crushed, 𝖬 casually complained about a little pinch. However, his trembling face revealed sheer, agonizing torment. A mysterious glowing sigil sparked on his severed hand as he plunged down the beast's throat. His bloodline's ultimate forbidden technique officially awakened. Phase 1, the light of life and death. This instantly brands a lethal soul-binding curse right onto his colossal murderer, and onto himself. Whatever excruciating damage 𝖬 takes, his enemy flawlessly mirrors. Provided the dark hex doesn't straight-up erase him, his shattered body infinitely regenerates. Next up was dual annihilation. The second, this apocalyptic taboo drops. Both cursed souls face absolute, unavoidable deletion together. Only a supreme, god-tier immortal intervention could possibly cancel this mutually assured destruction. 0 chance of respawning, no shields, no external saves. Suddenly, a sharp, annoying voice snapped him completely out of the void. A furious teacher demanded to know what unhinged garbage he was mumbling. 𝖬 blinked, abruptly finding himself sitting inside a mundane classroom. He was supposed to recite the 7 arts of body refinement. Instead, he was aggressively yapping about forbidden magic and mutual death. The instructor seriously questioned if our guy overdosed on cultivation supplements, totally triggering a massive hallucination. The whole room erupted in mocking laughter. Meanwhile, back in the staff lounge, a female educator questioned Professor Yin regarding his newest transfer student. She totally figured this kid possessed some insane, godlike potential. Otherwise, there was literally 0 chance an elite academic like Yin would accept him. Yin smirked, hinting at unique hidden skills. Truthfully, he just pocketed a massive, fat bribe. He fully expected the trash student to fail the first monthly trial anyway, so grabbing that easy cash was a total no-brainer. Back in class, his peers labeled him a complete garbage-tier loser, laughing relentlessly. However, 𝖬 remained totally unbothered. Actually, he sat silently, intensely pondering what overpowered cheat skill the heavens finally granted him. Right after that legendary dragon devoured him, he respawned in bed. More importantly, his totally useless spiritual root, completely dead for 20 years, furiously sparked to life. His toxic ex's brutal parting words haunted his mind, constantly reminding him that he was the pathetic, final heir of a washed-up cultivation clan. Bam! A heavy boot slammed onto his desk. This arrogant punk tried flexing his non-existent aura, forcefully laying down the classroom hierarchy. The tyrant demanded a weekly tribute, 1 full stash of body refinement pills, a premium bottle of 𝖤𝗍𝗁𝗂યુtu𝗂 elixirs, and a mandatory dose of 𝖤𝗏𝖾 potion. The spectating students watched 𝖳噚유피이 brutally humble another fresh victim. For them, this was peak, primetime entertainment. 𝖬 calmly looked up, asking why he should pay up, and why this clown's filthy shoe was on his property. 𝖳噚유피이 smirked, claiming absolute dominance over the territory. He casually added that he always leaps out the window from this exact spot, refusing to use stairs like basic, low-level NPCs. Before exiting, the bully aggressively warned 𝖬 that failing to cough up the goods by sunset would result in a brutal, humiliating public execution, tied securely to the academy's front entrance lamppost. As the arrogant thug styled his window exit, a savage idea hit 𝖬. Without hesitating, our protagonist ruthlessly swatted the bully's supporting leg. Mid-air panic ensued. The tyrant tumbled awkwardly, kissing the concrete face first. Absolute cinematic perfection. Jaws collectively dropped across the classroom. The entire student body crowded the window, utterly shell-shocked by the bully's humiliating, pavement-eating dive. Nobody actually panicked. Having mastered the legendary 100-fold refined steel body art, they fully knew a tiny drop wouldn't fatally crush him. Honestly, some secretly hoped he would flatline, simply because the academic rankings would naturally shift up. Eating dirt for solid minutes, the humiliated thug finally rose, screaming promises to totally shatter Hei's legs. A nervous green-haired classmate quickly turned around, declaring Hei completely cooked. 𝖳𝖺유피이 wasn't just some random thug, he was the apex predator, boasting a flawless, undefeated street record. Furthermore, his bloodline belonged to a terrifyingly influential, elite cultivation syndicate running the city. Plus, his physical stats were completely off the charts. Rumor had it, the last brave soul who defied him watched his entire family get brutally erased. He stressed that running was absolutely pointless against that monster. He urgently advised Hei to avoid the deadly Guji Alley at all costs. That shadowy alley was their signature ganking spot. Sadly, that perilous route was totally unavoidable. As shadows stretched across Gucci Alley that evening, Hei spotted trouble. 3 menacing figures blocked his path home. A lackey sneered at his boss, 𝖳𝖺유피이. Do we seriously need all 3 of us to trash this new transfer student? The second goon scoffed confidently. The boss could squash this garbage with his eyes completely closed, but getting his hands dirty is beneath him. That is exactly why we are here to do the heavy lifting. 𝖳𝖺유피이 smirked, assuming the punk was shivering in his boots and desperately searching for a detour, but it was pointless. His crew had completely locked down every single exit. The bald minion flashed a sickening thumbs up, hyping up his boss's flawless strategy. Suddenly, Hei strutted right up to them. Who said I was hiding? He challenged. The bald thug whipped around. Their jaws hit the floor. This absolute madman had just waltzed straight into their kill zone. They figured he realized running was useless, and simply chose to embrace his doom. Yet, 𝖳𝖺유피이 noticed zero fear in his eyes. His curiosity piqued immediately. Could this scrawny student actually be a hidden master? The legendary type, who masks an overwhelming aura just to bait a lethal counterattack. Breaking the silence, Hei relentlessly roasted them. You cowards did not even have the guts to jump me at school, dragging me out to this sketchy alleyway? Do you know how far I had to walk? Bring it on, he barked. Instantly, a hot-headed minion snapped. He launched a brutal kick. Hei smashed into the concrete, leaving a massive crater. The thugs blinked in sheer disappointment. All that big talk for absolutely nothing. 𝖳𝖺유피이 chuckled, realizing he totally overthought the situation. The kid was pure fodder. Hei collapsed, blood dripping from his bruised face. The arrogant thug stepped over him, bragging that his strike packed the devastating power of the 5th body refinement tier. Your organs are mashed potatoes, kid. You are practically dead. Through bloody teeth, Hei forced a wicked smirk. Did not feel a thing. You call that weak tap a 5th refinement? That hit was softer than a pathetic basement dweller who drains his energy every single night. The thug's fragile ego shattered. Blinding rage took over. He aimed a lethal stomp straight down to crush Hei's skull. Crimson suddenly sprayed everywhere. The goon froze in shock. 𝖳𝖺유피이 and the bald lackey watched in sheer horror as a severed leg sailed through the air. The bully crashed down, screaming in absolute agony. Blood geysered from his missing limb, while Hei cackled like an absolute menace. Out of thin air, a mysterious woman materialized. She shielded Hei's battered body. 𝖳𝖺유피이 felt a cold chill down his spine. She bypassed his senses completely. Seizing the split second her back was turned, the bald brute lunged forward. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 desperately screamed to hold back, terrified a lethal strike would obliterate the entire block. But the idiot ignored him, unleashing his ultimate technique, Death by Purple Gold Club. A massive shockwave erupted, totally wiping out the surrounding neighborhood. He silently prayed his dad would not ground him for the massive property damage. Slowly, the thick cloud of dust cleared. The bald attacker froze in sheer disbelief. 𝖳𝖺유pi이's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. The devastating weapon struck her head, yet she did not even flinch. Rewind a few moments earlier, high above the clouds, on a majestic floating island, this gorgeous silver-haired deity and a mystical white crane were casually playing Chinese checkers. The bird turned to the woman, respectfully addressing her as Lord Divine Dragon. Why stay in human form? It chirped. The Dragon Queen scoffed at the quixote, rigid and broken laws of the Immortal Palace. Why should I ever revert to my beastly state? I would look absolutely ridiculous, like your goofy human body bird head combo. The crane gasped in offense. She smirked, asking if it was mad. No, my lord, your nose is bleeding. The crane panicked. She laughed it off, knowing her invincible body had not spilled a drop in over 100 years. But then, a terrifying crimson river poured down her face. The crane shrieked as the bleeding aggressively intensified. She rapidly cast a divine healing art to stabilize herself. Without wasting a second, she dove straight toward the mortal realm. Ignoring the bird's frantic cries to report to the higher-ups, she blasted through the atmosphere. A cursed seal burned onto her palm. Scanning it with divine sense, she discovered an unbreakable death, hex. Even her godlike mana could not shatter it. She instantly realized this twisted life-binding magic was tethered to a fragile mortal. She had to rescue that pathetic human. Snapping back to the present alleyway, a glowing kinetic field pulsed. Ancient runes illuminated the concrete walls, sealing the combat zone. 𝖳𝗏𝖾ി투 was utterly captivated. She easily tanked a brutal strike from a quasi-condensation realm expert without batting an eye. In a microsecond, she had conjured an absolute defense, shielding every single building from the devastating blast. Her cultivation level was undeniably in another dimension. The divine dragon sighed heavily. It has been centuries since I encountered such pathetic and low-level trash. I genuinely forgot how frail you mortals are. You are even weaker than a newborn cultivator. 𝖳𝗏𝖾ி투 screamed at his minion to fall back immediately, but before the bald thug could even blink, his entire body violently exploded into bloody mist. Pure terror paralyzed 𝖳𝖺유피이. His knees completely buckled, sending him crashing helplessly into the dirt. He could not even track her insane movements. Blind panic entirely consumed him as her terrifying silhouette closed the distance. Paralyzed and utterly defenseless, he braced for absolute death. Out of nowhere, an invisible force violently yanked him skyward. She scoffed, genuinely shocked that her previous snack had actually resurrected. That chilling confession confirmed it. She was the mythical dragon. She demanded he instantly break their cursed link, threatening absolute slaughter. But our boy just shrugged, totally clueless about reversing it. That cheeky attitude earned him a brutal beatdown. She ruthlessly slammed him, completely shattering the solid bedrock with terrifying force. She furiously ordered him to undo the spell. Watching from afar, 𝖳𝖺유피이 trembled at her ruthless, friendly fire level of rage. Suddenly, crimson blood erupted from her lips, violently staining the shattered earth. The horrific truth clicked. Damaging him directly damaged her. Continuing this vicious beatdown would just trap them in a pathetic loop. She turned to retreat and research a cure, but he boldly ordered her to halt. She watched him miraculously revive again. She silently cursed this absolutely broken cheat skill. Meanwhile, he smoothly demanded heavy compensation for being treated like a casual snack. No mortal had ever dared disrespect her. When she hissed for his demands, he shamelessly requested straight-up eternal immortality. Pure irritation flashed across her face as she challenged his absolute audacity. Without missing a beat, he dropped a psycho threat. He would literally dive into boiling acid, infinitely respawning, while forcing her to share every single agonizing ounce of torture. Blazing fury consumed her at this absolute disrespect. She seriously debated permanently encasing this brat in eternal, unbreakable ice, while she leisurely researched a cure. An immortal dragon had centuries to spare, but our guy already predicted that icy scenario. He smugly dared her to try it. Her rage literally exploded, summoning a massive shadow swirling with dark, crimson hellfire. Yielding to his insane bluff, she aggressively hurled a manual at his face, snapping that instant immortality was a complete myth. It was merely a foundational cultivation guide for a slow grind. She brutally roasted his absolute lack of natural magical talent. It would not grant eternal life, but mastering it guaranteed a top-tier academy spot, securing his absolute financial freedom forever. The golden title read, Advanced Payment of Skills. Judging by that overpowered name alone, he knew he had struck absolute gold. He smirked, realizing that leveling up his aura was the ultimate play. Meanwhile, she mentally mocked his complete and utter foolishness. Nothing comes without a brutal price, and she planned to violently exploit him until the curse broke. Ironically, he plotted the exact same scheme. Meanwhile, a terrified 𝖳𝖺유피이 literally glued himself to the rubble, desperately hiding. But her piercing, predatory gaze instantly locked onto him. Accepting his brutal demise, he squeezed his eyes shut. But the dragon coldly scoffed, refusing to waste energy crushing insignificant background extras. However, she demanded an absolute memory wipe. A blinding flash of her aura engulfed him, causing him to shriek for his life. Snap back to reality, he jolted awake, with the combat instructor aggressively screaming in his face to calm down. Standing in the testing arena, pure confusion overwhelmed him. Yesterday's events were completely blank, leaving his mind in absolute chaotic static. He stood entirely clueless about the day's agenda. The booming instructor quickly announced the brutal first monthly trial of the semester. He challenged them to push their absolute limits. Any trash-tier students scraping the bottom of the leaderboards faced total academic execution. The academy would mercilessly expel the weak. With that grim warning, the brutal physical cultivation proficiency exams officially kicked off. Screaming for them to fight for their futures, he ordered the charge. Our guy was completely blindsided by this week 1 surprise trial. The lazy teachers had literally taught absolutely zero techniques lately. A green-haired classmate leaned over, dropping a harsh reality check. Welcome to the brutal senior year meta. Essential foundational skills were already aggressively drilled during their first 2 years. They were supposed to grind private tutoring to survive. Completely clueless, he listened as his classmate explained the intense extracurricular hustle. The final year was purely about surviving mock exams, climbing the hierarchy, and clout chasing. Absolute panic hit him. He had skipped every cram session. He was definitely going to completely bomb this test. Beside him, someone whispered to a heavy-set kid about an upcoming ranking shift. When questioned, the green-haired student viciously gossiped that the clueless new transfer kid was about to hit rock bottom. Skipping essential prep courses meant instant failure. The duo burst into toxic laughter until the green-haired student spotted 𝖳𝗏𝖾ிtutetu𝗂유tutu nearby. He whispered, baffled why the notoriously brutal class tyrant spared the transfer. Honestly, 𝖳𝗏𝖾ിtutetuRyututu remained just as completely confused. His loyal lackeys were absolutely pulverized, while the third violently bled out. A chilling, traumatic dread poisoned his very soul. A lingering sense of absolute cosmic horror haunted him. Suddenly, the brutal armor-piercing trials commenced, activating a massive magical barrier. It was time to showcase raw, destructive, piercing power. The instructor confidently summoned 𝖳𝖺유피이, expecting an absolutely legendary demonstration. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 unleashed a devastating kinetic punch. The monstrous shockwave obliterated multiple layers, prompting a massively hyped announcement from the ecstatic teacher. His strike flawlessly pierced 5 dense layers of meter-thick magical concrete. Naturally, the arrogant bully totally expected that legendary destruction. As the Academy's body-tempering prodigy, 𝖳𝖺유pi이's raw power was insane. The fangirls completely lost their minds, screaming his name. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 brushed off their hype, lost in his own hidden worries. Meanwhile, the green-haired dude was totally mind-blown by the flex. Һэй casually asked if that score was actually a big deal. Greenhair quickly hyped 𝖳𝖺유pi이 up as an absolute campus legend. After all, 𝖳𝖺유pi이 was the only student handpicked for the elite 𝖤𝖺유 Cultivation University, purely for his insane physical stats. He explained this exam measures pure, explosive, destructive force. It doesn't matter if you use physical tempering or chi cultivation arts. Your final grade drops based on how many barrier layers you completely shatter. Most average students barely crack 2 or 3 walls. Smashing 5 layers this early in senior year was an absolute top-tier record. Next up on the chopping block was Wu Fei. Yep, the chubby dude from earlier. He stepped up, channeled his energy, and hurled the sphere. It slammed into the first barrier, but it instantly got jammed. He prayed to the heavens for a miracle, and boom, it cracked through. The guy went absolutely wild, celebrating. Then the proctor finally called out our transfer student. Honestly, the instructor was secretly fuming with pure annoyance. He hated that the principal dumped this deadweight into his elite class. As he called Һэй forward, Greenhair thought our boy was totally cooked. Failing to shatter even a single layer meant instant expulsion. Thinking this was their final goodbye, he wished Һэй the best, but Һэй just focused his aura, his eyes flashing a dangerous crimson. The teacher sneered, seeing him step up empty-handed. He instantly roasted him out loud, joking that their class suddenly birthed a magical genius who creates weapons out of thin air. The whole room burst into mocking laughter. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 sarcastically chimed in, saying a hidden dragon like him would definitely guarantee the teacher's promotion. The disrespect was off the charts, but suddenly, crackling energy formed a solid sphere right in Һэй's palm. He casually shifted into a throwing stance. He wound up and launched it. The projectile became an absolute blur, effortlessly obliterating barrier after barrier. The instructor's jaw dropped as those reinforced shields turned to dust. Panic hit him hard, terrified this attack might actually shatter the Academy's main ward. But right at the final layer, the energy gracefully fizzled out. The teacher exhaled a massive sigh of relief, thankful the momentum finally died. Still, that wild strike just shattered the entire senior class record. Plus, the teacher had literally never witnessed that brutal palm lightning technique before. Judging by that devastating voltage, Һэй's physical tempering stats had to be off the charts. Dual-wielding master-level body and chi cultivation, the instructor instantly branded the kid a heaven-defying monster. Suddenly, the fangirls swarmed Һэй, totally shocked by his epic glow-up. Now, they were absolutely swooning over his looks. One girl practically screamed that his raw talent easily rivaled the top-tier prodigies. He hid his power level so well, but now everyone was convinced he belonged to a terrifying hidden sect. Meanwhile, the green-haired dude realized he was massively screwed. He had been laughing the loudest just minutes ago. Later that afternoon, he was sweating bullets. Һэй caught his panicked face and asked what was wrong, since the guy suddenly looked like he aged 50 whole years. He frantically apologized for his blindness earlier, swearing absolute loyalty if Heit ever needed a favor. Just say the word. But Heit simply threw up a peace sign, rushing off. In a blink, he completely vanished from sight. Green Hair stood there stunned as Heit bolted toward the train station. It hit him hard. The most overpowered beasts always grind way harder than average folks. Heit was currently sprinting for his absolute life. Pure annoyance burned through his veins. He finally realized that Toxic Dragon was plotting against him all along. That sneaky reptile secretly slipped him a literal ticking time bomb of a trash manual. The system forced him to instantly master the Black Nether Palm Lightning technique. If he somehow failed to beat the brutal countdown clock, severe system penalties would crush him, permanently draining his cultivation base and literally decaying his powerful bloodline. He would be completely crippled. Glancing at his floating interface, the death timer flashed. 11 hours, 5 minutes, and 56 seconds. Bursting into his room, he frantically tore through his bookshelves, hunting for a specific skill manual. It was that sketchy ancient text he previously bought off the web. Back then, the arcane text looked like pure gibberish, so he lazily skimmed to the very end. Now, he was desperately craving those crucial beginner cultivation steps. Ordering a physical copy was completely out of the question. Express shipping still meant tomorrow delivery, which basically guaranteed his absolute doom. Left with zero choices, he decided to instantly download the digital version. But his jaw dropped, and he screamed at the insane price tag. The downstairs neighbors started banging on the ceiling, yelling that they needed early sleep for tomorrow's morning cultivation grind. The first time he snagged this cursed manual, it drained his entire savings, costing tens of thousands. To his absolute horror, market inflation had caused the price to brutally skyrocket. Staring at his screen, his doom clock ticked down to 8 hours, 31 minutes, and 24 seconds. The Reaper was knocking at his door, and if he didn't instantly smash that buy button, pulling an all-nighter wouldn't even save his life. But his wallet was already bleeding from heavy expenses, especially that massive 50,000 bribe to the old principal. Gritting his teeth, he clicked purchase for a staggering 200,000 yen. His bank account tragically flatlined at just 3,372.29 yuan. Wasting no time, he vanished into the deep mountains, immediately grinding his foundational breathing rhythms. With only 3 hours remaining, he forcefully ignited his spiritual energy core. He dumped the final 60 minutes into intense combat choreography. Boom! Devastating explosions violently rocked the silent forest as his raw power blasted massive craters straight through ancient trees and solid boulders. Sweat dripping, he successfully locked in the cultivation sequence with merely 32 seconds left on the death clock. Smirking confidently, he wiped his brow and scoffed, calling the brutal trial a total cakewalk. The world violently spun before everything faded to black. High above in the floating island's mystical bathhouse, thick steam choked the air. The divine dragon was enjoying her soak when crimson suddenly exploded from her back. Blood viciously tainted the pristine water. She angrily cursed the heavens, mourning the incredibly precious immortal dew she had just refined. Peering through the water's reflection, she spotted the brutal truth. The absolute fool had pushed past his cultivation limits and literally dropped dead. What absolute trash, she hissed. She only planted a tiny restriction on his breakthrough, yet the shockwave alone crushed him. Groaning, she had no choice but to stitch his soul back together. Flashback to week 1 of senior year. 𝖳𝗏𝗋이 smashed into the top 10 on the placement boards, his name shining for everyone to worship. He loudly flexed his insane stats, bragging that pure body tempering alone dragged him into the absolute elite tier. His ego skyrocketed above the actual top rankers. Suddenly, a girl's piercing scream totally shattered his massive power trip. The class fatty was magically no longer dead last. A complete nobody named Heit sat right at rock bottom. They instantly knew he was fresh meat. 𝖳𝗏이이 practically salivated, desperate to give this clueless transfer student a brutal reality check. Snapping back to reality, 𝖳𝗏이이 glared at the board. Heit had miraculously skyrocketed 10 spots since the last trial. Heit now dominated rank 33. One of his lackeys nervously announced it was time for the gym trials to begin. Inside the arena, a terrified student trembled under intense pressure. A vicious palm strike obliterated his face, spraying crimson. The devastating impact folded him, sickeningly snapping his frail neck. The instructor desperately screamed for medics, praying Dr. Song's legendary healing hands could drag the kid back from death's door. Heit turned to a green-haired dude, utterly baffled by this deadly exam. "It measures raw palm strength and blunt force survival," he whispered. "Forget the previous penetration trials. This bloodbath is 𝖳𝖺유피이's absolute playground. His iron-tempered steel defense is literally unbreakable by anyone in our entire grade." 𝖳𝖺유피이이 aggressively stepped up against this year's undisputed palm strike king, 𝖤𝖾유kai. 𝖳𝖺유피이이 hungered for utter dominance. Yukai locked onto him, unleashing the iconic forged steel palm to crush that massive ego. The explosive shockwave obliterated the arena, swallowing them in thick debris. Yukai smirked, calling Jibai's legendary defense pure trash. But as the smoke cleared, his jaw dropped. Jibai stood completely untouched, laughing viciously at the pathetic strike. With one devastating counter, Jibai floored him. The instructor instantly ordered the Broken King shipped to the emergency ward. Next up was Wu, but Jibai demanded Hei's head on a platter. Meanwhile, Hei looked absolutely clueless about open-source arts. Patented methods? Open source? His classmate desperately explained the absolute basics of modern cultivation law. This was preschool-level common sense. The guy seriously wondered what trash-tier academy Hei had survived until 11th grade. Municipal number 3. Hei casually dropped in response. Now it made perfect sense why his foundational knowledge was completely non-existent. That was a totally normal, non-immortal mortal high school. The green-haired guy patiently explained that open-source techniques belong to everyone, free to spam. However, patented arts are strictly locked down by the terrifying Immortal Cultivation Patent Bureau. Only the supreme patent lords and their authorized VIPs can ever practice them. Steal a patented move? You face brutal prison time or absolute execution. For example, forged steel palm is completely free to play, while the 100 refined steel is strictly a premium bloodline art. Mere mortals cannot easily shatter these patent walls. The cultivation threshold is insanely steep and lethal. The instructor chanted basic mending spells, piecing the shattered arena back together before summoning Hei to his doom. The two rivals finally locked eyes. Jibai's blood pounded with irrational fury. Why did this literal nobody trigger him so badly over one single lost rank? Crushing him would restore his supreme honor. Out of nowhere, Hei casually suggested they just trade fatal blows, simultaneously. Disrespectful trash, Jibai roared at the arrogant insect. Unfazed, Hei calmly channeled the basic forged steel palm. Jibai scoffed at this pathetic open-source garbage. He countered by igniting his ultimate patented 100 refined steel. The instructor held his breath. Skin met skin in a thunderous clash. But shockingly, Jibai was launched like a ragdoll. He blasted through the concrete wall, leaving a massive, body-shaped crater in his wake. The entire arena froze in absolute bone-chilling silence. Minds were absolutely blown. The instructor realized Hei truly initiated with the basic free-to-play palm, but upon the moment of deadly impact, he seamlessly stacked the patented 100 refined steel directly on top. The Zhang family's heavily restricted art possesses an insanely steep, unforgiving threshold. Did this insane kid have zero fear of the absolute catastrophe brought upon by stealing a patented celestial art? Dusting off, Hei calmly suggested the teacher fetch a medic immediately, since the arrogant bully was literally cemented into the wall. Hei blinked, totally confused by the instructor's horrified, entirely speechless stare. Spinning around, the once arrogant instructor cowered like an obedient puppy. He desperately begged to know whose legendary master trained him. Gesturing him closer, he dropped a chilling whisper, "The Dragon Lord." Meanwhile, Jibai finally snapped awake in the campus infirmary. Pure rage boiled in his veins. Suddenly, a voice beside him muttered that this absolute menace looked suspiciously familiar. It was Jixian. Studying a snapshot of Hei, his eyes narrowed, realizing this kid perfectly mirrored a ghost from his past. Jibai demanded answers. Jixian gave a cryptic nod, though his mind was racing with dark, impossible calculations. There was zero chance that guy survived. Did the ruthless Dragon Lord actually show mercy? Shaking it off, he prepped for the upcoming chemistry trials. He questioned Jibai about the exam's core focus. Jibai smirked, revealing a deadly curriculum, crafting lethal poisons and testing raw toxins. A sinister smirk stretched across Jixian's face, promising absolute chaos. Cut to a gritty, rusted-out car junkyard. Hei ruthlessly ground his forged steel palm technique to absolute mastery. He smoothly alerted the boss that every wrecked vehicle was totally pulverized. Hyped by the destruction, the owner flooded Hei's bank account with massive payouts. The guy literally skipped buying a mechanical crusher to save cash. This gave Hei the ultimate hack, getting paid to level up. Suddenly, the system flashed, demanding he finalize the 100 refined steel. Mastery immediately. He perfectly nailed 20 out of 20 strikes, but absorbed 0 out of 20 hits. His mind raced. Who could serve as his personal punching bag tonight? Right on cue, a shadow stepped forward, aggressively demanding if he was Hei. He flatly denied it. Playing dumb, he claimed the dude was stalking the wrong guy, introducing himself as Yin Jian instead. Miles away, that humiliated classroom instructor violently sneezed. He caught himself shivering, totally confused about catching a random chill, while just editing a boring slideshow. Back in the yard, the stranger snapped, screaming at Hei to drop the pathetic acting. Young Master Zhang dispatched him to deliver a brutal beatdown. Enter Zhang Zixuan, a menacing Tier 9 spiritual attraction realm cultivator. Hei casually strolled up, sighing that he should have dropped names sooner. He only lied because he expected some annoying debt collector. Game on. 𝖳𝖺유an frowned, totally baffled by this kid's zero-fear attitude, especially facing a wildly superior cultivation rank. Scanning his aura, this rookie barely scraped the entry level of the spiritual attraction realm. Was this punk actually masking his true power? Trashing all logic, 𝖳𝖺유an launched a blinding assault. A devastating right hook sent Һэй rocketing across the junkyard. 𝖳𝖺유an blitzed forward, convinced the kid's earlier confidence was total cap. One strike was all it took. But mid-air, a chilling realization froze 𝖳噚uan's blood. Һэй was glaring straight back at him. He coldly provoked 𝖳ዀuan to hit harder. Shockwaves shattered the tree line as they clashed. Һэй tanked another heavy blow, then a brutal kick. Eating dirt face first, a psychotic grin still stretched across Һэй's bruised face. 𝖳뾱uan was entirely creeped out. His body was breaking, his aura fading rapidly, yet that demonic smile never vanished. Pushed to his absolute limit, 𝖳뾱uan triggered an ultimate, instant kill finisher. Third sequence activated. A devastating shockwave caved into Һэй's ribs, launching him like a rag doll until a massive boulder snapped his flight. He collapsed onto shattered knees. 𝖳뾱uan mocked him, calling modern high schoolers tragically weak despite their massive egos. Һэй remained completely motionless, but looking closer, insane cellular regeneration was repairing his flesh. 𝖳뾱uan gasped. Not even an elite healer at the peak, spiritual attraction, realm possessed such godly recovery. He unleashed his absolute final strike. The explosive impact ripped a tornado through the clearing. That terrifying smirk widened. His system flashed. Damage absorbed, 20 out of 20 hits. The 100 refined steel training was completely finalized. Eyes glowing. Һэй instantly locked onto 𝖳뾱uan's ankle. Bam! He detonated the black underworld palm thunder directly into his attacker's gut. 𝖳뾱uan deflected it barehanded, laughing at such a trash-tier rookie spell. Һэй just smirked, whispering for him to hold it tight. He instantly channeled raw aura into his free hand. Boom! Forged steel palm activated, instantly supercharged by the 100 refined steel technique. 𝖳뾱uan ate the catastrophic blow point blank, launching backwards like a missile. The kinetic force literally shattered a massive oak tree upon impact. Skidding through the dirt, he desperately stabilized his stance, violently hacking up dark blood. Pure panic hit. His core meridians were completely pulverized. His internal network was wrecked. How could a basic high school student scraping the entry level of the spiritual attraction realm force him into desperate healing mode? He internally swore a bloody revenge until a terrifying glow locked onto his vision. That crackling thunder orb was physically welded to his flesh. Total panic set in as he frantically shook his arm, but it held firm. Time stopped before the blinding detonation. When the smoke cleared, only his charred sunglasses remained. Һэй smoothly swiped them, sliding them over his eyes. A system chime confirmed the elite kill. A glowing prompt revealed his new loot, an epic magical artifact called the Dynamic Monocle. This gear massively buffed his dynamic vision, locking onto hyperspeed targets with ease. Һэй grinned, totally hyped by this insane mid-boss drop. Morning hit, and the updated leaderboards dropped. 𝖳𝗍𝗁𝗂યુtu𝗂 was fiercely grinding his teeth. Һэй was skyrocketing, already dominating the 18th rank overall. Worse, this absolute menace had effortlessly dismantled the hired goons sent after him. Suddenly, a mysterious female voice called out to Һэй. She begged for his rapid leveling secret. Her bribe? Just a few basic yuan nourishing pills. But the classroom walls had ears. The eavesdropping girls immediately dragged Gao Fei for trying to scam him with such a trash trade. Soon enough, the bell rang. It was time for chemistry with the notorious teacher Qingyan. Today's brutal exam? A full-blown showcase of poison crafting and detection. Because in their future high-stakes careers, lethal backstabbing from rivals and bosses was totally guaranteed. If they wanted to actually survive their shifts, they needed to ace this test like their lives depended on it. Every student received a tray of mysterious samples. The mission was simple but deadly. Isolate the toxic traps and literally swallow the safe ones before the clock ran out. Speed and accuracy determined their survival and their grades. Naming the exact deadly toxin? That scored massive extra credit. Meanwhile, 𝖬𝗏𝖾i and his brother had completely rigged Һэй's tray. He plotted to permanently cancel Һэй before graduation. Today was supposed to be his funeral. By mixing overwhelming odors, 𝖬𝗏𝖾i made sure sniffing out the poison was absolutely impossible. Һэй stared at a foul combination of fish, mint dumplings, stinky tofu, durian, and fermented bean juice. Even if Һэй tried using aura, the lethal dose was heavily cloaked to guarantee a fatal mistake. 𝖬𝗏𝖾i smirked, trusting his family's elite poison master. This toxic cocktail was so flawless, even teacher Qingyan would be completely clueless. Elsewhere, the green-haired student flexed, thrilled to finally be in his dominant element. He inhaled deeply to trace the scents, while the heavy-set guy dripped reactive chemicals onto his food. One girl straight-up channeled lightning to zap the toxins. Teacher Qingyan nodded, totally impressed by her elite detection skills. But then she noticed Hei just standing there frozen while everyone else popped off. Shibai chuckled from the shadows. Assuming Hei was totally paralyzed by fear, he thought the absolute loser had zero clue what to eat. Honestly, his choice did not matter. Death was inevitable. Then, Hei casually reached for the loaded tray. Cut to the celestial floating island, where the divine dragon was lazily fishing and zoning out. Reaching godhood had honestly made her life insanely boring. Now, her entire eternity was basically just casting a fishing line, but mid-yawn, thick, dark blood suddenly started gushing from her divine eyes and nose. Flashback 5 minutes. Hei had ruthlessly devoured his entire tray. Teacher Qingyun was completely shook. She screamed, asking if he possessed a death wish. Thankfully, she always prepared for reckless idiots like him. Claiming she strictly nerfed the dosages, she promised he would only suffer agonizing cramps, not death. Hearing this, Shibai grinned viciously. Knowing her safety net was pure delusion. He had laced every single bite with enough venom to flatline 5 grown men. Instantly, Hei turned ghost pale. Black blood exploded from all his facial features before his body collapsed lifelessly to the floor. Teacher Qingyun grabbed his wrist and declared him officially dead. Panic erupted, with students freaking out over an epic PR nightmare. Another classmate just scoffed, pointing out that Hei was a literal nobody without a major sect or elite status to back him up. Senior year casualties were honestly standard routine. The rank 19 guy even smiled, hyped for a free boost up the leaderboards. Meanwhile, Teacher Qingyun was internally panicking about how this corpse would completely tank her upcoming promotion review. Blazing fury consumed her at whoever sabotaged her sacred exam. Her mind instantly flashed to the incredibly toxic PE teacher. That musclehead had been fighting her for the top title all semester. But mid-rant, a miracle happened. Hei just sat straight up. She launched backward in pure shock seeing him breathe. In her decades of teaching, a student resurrecting was unprecedented. She could not fathom how he faked out a master. Wiping the blood, Hei casually listed all 5 lethal toxins, including the rare gut-shredding powder. Glowing text literally materialized across his palm. Reading it, he flawlessly identified the ultimate trump card, the lethal, breath-stealing poison. Shibai felt his soul leave his body. He was sweating bullets, knowing he had hired a top-tier condensation realm assassin from his elite sect. He had run full background checks on Hei and found pure garbage stats. How did a pathetic NPC survive a high-tier assassination? Fast forward to midnight in the lab. Teacher Qingyun intensely focused her aura over a swirling liquid in a petri dish. It was Hei's tainted blood sample, and her deep analysis proved it. His insane poison breakdown was 100% accurate. Reality hit her hard. That brainless PE teacher lacked the IQ to brew something this terrifyingly complex. The terrifying truth dropped. Only a legendary condensation realm poison master could forge this lethal masterpiece. It took her half the night just to decipher the compound, proving Hei was an absolute anomaly. Meanwhile, deep inside the newly opened Immortal bookstore, Hei frantically scoured the ancient texts, his mind absolutely blown by the magical palm texting phenomenon. The divine dragon had literally texted his hand. She casually dropped the lore that this was their insanely overpowered forbidden bloodline link. She called him an absolute idiot for lacking basic common sense. Linking their life force together, she created a direct mental hotline for life or death emergencies. Gritting his teeth, he complained that this encrypted soul link burned like crazy. He desperately asked if divine beings had any less painful ways to chat with mere mortals. He actually thought gods could just roam freely. Rolling her eyes, she bluntly reminded him that to human society, immortals were literally walking nuclear weapons. The Immortal Palace monitored their every single breath. Since she had already broken taboo by descending to the mortal realm once, casually hitting up humans again would trigger massive alarms. If the higher-ups found out, an entire squad of divine executioners would hunt her down. Smirking, he shamelessly asked if she could drop some coordinates for god-tier loot. She completely shut him down. Every single perk he was allowed to get was already hardwired into his advanced payment skills, so he just needed to read the damn manual. Suddenly, crimson blood dripped from his hand. A nearby female bookstore clerk froze in pure shock at the sight. She knew senior year stress was absolutely brutal, but a student literally self-harming in the middle of a bookstore was wild, and panic set in as she realized she would have to scrub the floors again. Snapping back to reality, he quickly apologized and swore to mop up the mess. Shaking it off, he casually asked for some study materials. Still weirded out, she asked exactly what kind of knowledge he was hunting for. He confidently stated he was a high school senior, aiming straight for the condensation realm. He needed the absolute best cultivation manuals on the market. Her jaw practically dropped. With the brutal college entrance exams still a whole year away, gunning for the condensation realm this early was unheard of. When he cluelessly asked if reaching that realm was actually difficult, she completely deadpanned. Was this guy even a real student if he lacked such basic common sense? Sighing, she dropped some heavy truth. Breaking through to the condensation realm before the exams basically guaranteed him a golden ticket into any elite academy. Hitting that milestone meant an instant VIP recommendation. Muttering under her breath, she roasted this generation for having sky-high egos, but zero actual foundations. She slapped 3 top-tier bestsellers onto the counter, wishing him luck in actually comprehending them. Without hesitating, he grabbed the Ultimate Condensation Realm Cultivation Guide. He slammed it down at the checkout. Since he completely ignored her carefully curated beginner recommendations, she just rolled her eyes at his sheer arrogance. His eyes darted across the pages at lightning speed. The clerk watched in pure disbelief as he mindlessly flipped straight to the end of a master-level manual. In her mind, this kid was an absolute lost cause. Trying to run before he could even crawl was a guaranteed recipe for total disaster. The text revealed a brutal truth. Breaking through required maxing out either spiritual chi or physical body to level 10, plus devouring a hyper-rare condensation pill. The breakthrough process was no joke. Violent spiritual energy would literally rampage through his meridians, threatening to tear his body apart from the inside out. Surviving meant hoarding top-tier healing elixirs and foundation stabilizers. It was a stupidly expensive and lethal gamble, where one wrong move meant instant death. Skipping the warnings, he smugly decided he only needed to secure that one pill. Meanwhile, deafening roars of pure rage echoed through the luxurious Zhang family estate. 𝖳𝗏И unleashed his absolute fury on a condensation realm poison master. He could not fathom how an elite assassin completely failed to wipe out a measly high schooler. Trembling in fear, the assassin desperately bowed his head. Sweating bullets, he swore some freak accident messed up the hit, and pathetically begged for one last shot, promising to send the brat straight to the underworld. But 𝖳𝗏I was heavily stressing out, considering his own test scores had tragically plummeted to 10th place. There was absolutely no way he would let that annoying trash surpass him. Glaring daggers, he gave the terrified assassin exactly 1 week to finish the job, and if the target breathed past that deadline, the master's own head would roll. Suddenly, a thunderous crash from the roof violently shattered the tension. Out of nowhere, cold steel ripped right through the ceiling. Rewinding just a few minutes, the Zhang mansion was locked down tighter than a maximum security fortress. A heavily armed guard on the second floor watched in horror as his partner collapsed lifeless. Panicking, he desperately smashed his radio button to sound the intruder alarm, but before a single warning left his throat, a brutal strike silenced him forever. A shadowy figure then vaulted flawlessly onto the second-floor balcony. He ruthlessly dispatched the rooftop snipers in seconds. Peering down, he overheard 𝖳𝗏I actively ordering his assassination. Pure, explosive aura immediately surged into his clenched fist, and with one devastating punch, he obliterated the floorboards and plummeted 2 stories down, landing right in front of a horrified 𝖳𝖾iii. His blade flashed and pinned the rich kid by his shoulder. This arrogant young master truly poked a sleeping dragon. He thought he was just terrorizing some helpless new kid, but now, the Grim Reaper was literally knocking at his door. The icy blade had pierced just inches away from his rapidly beating heart. Despite bleeding out, the cornered bully desperately fought back. 𝖳𝖾iii unleashed a vicious martial arts palm strike to blast the intruder away. But reacting with lightning speed, the invader yanked out his sword and countered with a massive palm blast of his own. The absolute sheer force launched 𝖳𝖾iii crashing through multiple concrete walls, leaving him cratered in the rubble. Suddenly, a lethal volley of poisoned needles hissed through the air. Spinning around, he flawlessly deflected the deadly projectiles with his singing blade. However, a surprise attacker rushed in wielding a seriously bizarre weapon. It was a heavy battle staff, crowned with a mechanical lotus that snapped open and shut like a metal jaw. Sparks flew as his sword parried the heavy strike. But with a sinister click, a hidden spring-loaded dagger shot out from the staff, aiming straight for his pupil. Tilting his head by a sheer millimeter, the deadly tip barely grazed his cheek. Missing his fatal strike, the assassin was forced into a rapid tactical retreat. The poison master's eyes widened in sheer disbelief. This ruthless invader was the exact same high schooler who miraculously survived his lethal venom. He was literally about to hunt him down, yet the prey had completely smashed into his own lair. Sneering, the assassin gloated that those deflected needles were packed with a mind-bending toxin. Forged from a forbidden ancestral recipe, the poison was basically a guaranteed one-way ticket to hell. One tiny scratch, and this arrogant brat was practically a walking corpse. Blood trickled down 𝖳𝖾ii's cheek, but his eyes locked onto his target with a chilling, deathly glare. The poison master shivered. Suddenly, 𝖳𝖾iii vanished without a trace. He closed the gap instantly, thrusting his blade straight for 𝖳𝖾ii's throat. 𝖳𝖾iii barely dodged the lethal strike. 𝖳Лiii prepared a sweeping slash, but a sudden shift in the air interrupted his momentum. A deadly volley of toxic needles shot out from the shadows. The poison master was absolutely furious. How dare this brat completely disrespect his deadly presence? Frustration boiled inside the assassin. With venom that toxic, this arrogant kid should be a rotting corpse by now. Yet, the absolute madman stood tall. Hai crushed a mystical artifact in his palm. Realizing the danger, the poison master ordered 𝖳𝗒𝗈 to flee, unleashing a blinding storm of needles for cover. Hai narrowed his eyes as 𝖳𝗒𝗈 shattered the glass, desperately diving out the window to safety. The venom expert smirked, unleashing the terrifying aura of the condensation realm. Toxic green mist erupted from the embedded needles, immediately choking Hai. This suffocating fog carried a lethality that completely dwarfed those tiny poisoned darts from before. Sickly corruption rapidly crawled across his skin, and his lifeless body collapsed hard. Maniacal laughter echoed through the room. The master relentlessly mocked the fallen boy's foolish delusion of absolute poison immunity. He thought his ultimate strike had claimed victory. But shockingly, only a cracked clay statue lay sliced in half. Hai's terrifying gaze snapped open. A blinding sword flash ripped through the poison master, making him instantly regret his life choices. Ever since the divine dragon deployed her clay avatar substitution technique, she completely stopped getting drenched in blood during every single lethal encounter. However, losing 2 avatars instantly triggered massive alarm bells. She knew immediately that Hai had stumbled into a deadly trap. She peeked into his situation, only to witness him brutally cleaving down an enemy. As life faded, the master was completely mind-blown. A high-level cultivator like him, absolutely folded by a mere spiritual attraction realm rookie, blood pooled endlessly, leaving him without a pulse. Hai ruthlessly stripped the corpse of loot, knowing even trash items meant extra cash in his pocket. Meanwhile, 𝖳𝗒𝗈 collapsed onto a desolate mountain road. His lungs burned like fire, completely exhausted from his pathetic, desperate retreat. Leaving his phone behind, he frantically waved down a passing car to beg for a call. Pure, unadulterated rage toward that transfer student consumed him. How could this absolute nobody dare to strike back against the mighty Zhang bloodline? He furiously swore to rally elite assassins and brutally erase the boy's entire bloodline. But shockingly, a cold voice interrupted. Hai stood right there, mockingly asking who needed killing. Hai's blade slashed downward, but 𝖳𝗒𝗈 miraculously sidestepped. 𝖳તુ𝗈 desperately activated his 100 refined steel technique, turning his skin rock hard. Despite this, a bloody gash opened on his arm as he frantically leaped back. Before he even found his balance, a massive explosive orb smashed into his face. The deafening blast instantly violently blasted him straight off the jagged cliff. He slammed into the rocky earth with bone-shattering force. Hai descended, ready for slaughter. Completely paralyzed, 𝖳તુ𝗈 pathetically barked threats about his prestigious Zhang family status. Unbothered, Hai coldly swung his blade, sending the arrogant fool's head flying. Hai smirked, acknowledging that without the Dragon King absorbing that lethal damage earlier, this trash would have murdered him 10 times over. It baffled him completely. Even facing the Grim Reaper, 𝖳તુ𝗈 was still desperately flexing his boring family name. Scorching flames devoured the corpse, wiping away every trace. Yet, he knew the vengeful Zhang clan would definitely pin this brutal execution on him anyway. Evidence or not, it didn't matter. Plus, he was literally still exploiting their clan's signature martial arts technique. A massive, bloody war with them was absolutely inevitable now. Still, a wicked grin crossed his face. This payback was flawless, and despite the chaos, he managed to secure some seriously high-tier loot. Jackpot. He snagged 3 incredibly rare, highly coveted condensation pills. 𝖳તુ𝗈's own brother had to beg and offer insane sacrifices to the Dragon King just to earn a single pill. Major sect politics were truly a toxic mess. He happily scooped up piles of gold, ancient talismans, shining silver, and an arsenal of standard-issue weapons. Time to pawn this trash for a massive payday. Instantly, the system caught his thought and flashed a brand new, ultra-convenient merchant interface. Once he mastered advanced payment techniques, these crazy holographic pop-ups never stopped spamming him. That stinky dragon definitely programmed this mess. Now, it was aggressively pushing spooky algorithm features, literally reading his mind to recommend shady deals. Panic struck him instantly. He seriously needed to wipe his search history, immediately. A glowing digital roulette wheel materialized, teasing legendary options like rare cultivation manuals and overpowered magic artifacts. He smashed the sell button. The dynamic monocle, poison lotus, gold bars, and random junk instantly vanished into pure currency. His balance violently spiked to 1,054,178 wen. Suddenly, the shop glowed, offering the legendary heaven-opening blade for 1 million wen. He was absolutely fuming. He liquidated his entire inventory for just over 1 million, and this greedy system wanted almost all of it for one sword. Similar tier artifacts in the real world were dirt cheap. This was absolute daylight robbery of the highest order. Sure, he had the cash, but getting scammed wasn't his style. Rolling his eyes, he quickly swiped to browse a different category. He spotted the ultimate tactical cargo pants for 50 grand, built tough and completely indestructible. The best part? Both pockets were literal spatial dimensions, capable of hoarding a mountain of loot. Total game changer. Without hesitating, he dropped 100 grand, leaving his stash at exactly 954,718 yuan. Next, his eyes locked onto a premium relic called Boiling Blood, priced at a steep 600 grand. The catch? The closer you are to death, the more devastating your damage output. He also spotted the Swift Eye Contact Lens for 50 grand. It promised a massive 50% boost to kinetic tracking, turning high-speed attacks into absolute slow motion. Then came the anti-impact shirt for 100 grand. This legendary tee was literally built like a tank, guaranteeing his drip stays flawless during brutal clashes. Finally, he checked out the grip shoes for 200 grand, boasting gravity-defying soles. Channel some aura, and you can casually walk up walls. Though, the actual grip strength scales with your realm. This epic shopping spree burned 950 grand. His pathetic remaining balance of 4,718 yuan had him crying rivers, while the divine dragon was grinning ear to ear. That puny mortal dared to brand her with a blood curse? Oh, she'd make his survival a living hell. Suddenly, a servant addressed the mighty Dragon King. A feline familiar appeared from the shadows, declaring they finally cracked the code to shatter the mortal's hex. Gliding toward the ancient altar, the kitty confirmed that the boy's ancestral roots were absolute trash tier. Hai's pathetic lineage could only bind scrub-level demon beasts. And honestly, those weak monsters couldn't even tank the shared damage. His forefathers kept getting one-shotted in basic brawls. Naturally, zero elite sects gave a damn about his clan. He was the ultimate NPC down on Earth. Baffled, she demanded to know how this absolute nobody infected her, an almighty celestial and sovereign dragon king. The furry sidekick theorized that during her descent to the lower realms, the celestial emperor's brutal seals nerfed her base stats into the absolute dirt. Furthermore, the kid's desperate survival instincts pushed his hex's level cap straight to the maximum. Fortunately, the tether remains locked to his own trash stats. A scrub in the spiritual attraction realm can only siphon a microscopic sliver of her massive HP pool. Once he drains that tiny fraction, it's game over for him. The ritual array sparked to life. The familiar guided her straight into the Matrix's core. Brilliant runic halos materialized overhead, and an agonizing scream ripped from her throat as the parasitic energy violently tore outward. Back on Earth, pure silence. Hai slept completely unaware as that crimson tether slithered inside. Her divine eyes locked onto the physical manifestation of the curse, channeling pure aura into a blade of light. She swung down to sever it completely. But a sudden, jarring knock shattered her concentration. An envoy stood outside, delivering a direct summons from the heavenly minister. Her feline companion tilted its head, totally baffled that they ditched the standard communication talismans for an in-person delivery. Instantly, the divine dragon's radar went off. This smelled like a massive trap. Soon, she stood before the grand celestial throne, only to find dead air. Tempted to claim the seat? A voice echoed. A shadowy figure materialized just right of the throne, casually dropping that the supreme ruler had been away from keyboard for centuries. With the chair collecting dust, why not take it for a little spin? She fired back with a cold smirk. The entire heavenly realm knew this guy was foaming at the mouth to steal the crown. Skip the psychological warfare, she snapped, her aura flaring. Cut the garbage and tell me why I'm really here. He chuckled at her explosive attitude. Then, he dropped the absolute bombshell regarding her highly anticipated promotion to high immortal status. Request? Completely denied. Pure fury erupted in her eyes. She had surrendered her massive domain and loyal army just to serve this stuck-up court. They made a blood-sworn pact, 1 century of service, and the supreme title was supposed to be hers. He gave a pathetic excuse about the system changing. Tons of low-tier deities were suddenly begging for rank-ups. If they bypassed the rules just for her ancient VIP pass, the entire heavenly server would absolutely riot. His advice? Grind more karma points and level up her core. But before the words left his smug mouth, she vanished. Her familiar flinched as she instantly reappeared. Tearing through the clouds at godlike speeds, her face was twisted into a mask of pure, apocalyptic rage. The kitty braced for impact. Reaching the peak, she crashed down like a falling meteor. Shockwaves completely leveled the surrounding forest. Her poor pet face-planted into solid stone, shakingly asking if her sanity was intact. Sprawled across the shattered crater, she flashed a psychotic grin. "Oh, I'm fantastic," she hissed. "Just feeling a little boxed in." Boxed in? She literally just evaporated a mountain. But with her heavenly limits firmly locked in place, it was time to ruthlessly force her human meat shield to grind harder. Meanwhile, deep in the mortal woods, 𝖳 was aggressively leveling up. A nearby bird chirped in pure annoyance, completely robbed of its peaceful slumber. Finally, the system chimed. His spirit-attracting breathing technique hit perfect completion. With that done, his foundation to shatter the condensation realm barrier grew totally unbreakable. Securing the condensation realm, advance payment locked every puzzle piece into place, just needing minor cultivation. Boom! He triggered the upgrade. Condensation realm energy violently erupted, blasting a massive aura skyward. Thick dust choked the air. As it faded, his eyes burned with a menacing crimson glow. Thanks to this prepaid advancement, his raw strength, mana pool, and max health skyrocketed. His divine sense and comprehension skills absolutely leveled up. He instantly unlocked exclusive condensation realm techniques, epic artifacts, and rare loot. The system demanded specific upgrade materials: 1 condensation pill and 10 superior foundation stabilizing pills. Add 3 bottles of premium spiritual herb extract and 10 spirit-attracting layers. Wait, that was all? Having a fully stacked inventory made this a total breeze, but he completely jinxed himself. A brutal side quest popped up: clear the secret realm within the time limit while bleeding out. Surviving meant losing 30% of his cultivation and merit as pure loan interest. Late payments triggered deadly compound interest. Plus, he had zero clue where this demon cave hid. Right on cue, a crimson magic circle flared beneath his feet. Panic instantly gripped his chest. Plummeting down, a 20-minute timer ticked away. He cursed the insane difficulty, especially while dodging lethal spikes. Channeling pure aura into his limbs, he desperately clawed the wall. He skidded violently before finally halting. A literal inch separated him from a gruesome impalement. That insanely close call almost ended his run. A beefier health bar did not make pain disappear. With that random hemorrhage curse looming, dodging every single scratch became his top priority. A mechanical arm suddenly rocketed toward his face. He instantly ducked, only to narrowly dodge another deadly spike. He viciously sliced the trap in half. His speed, raw power, and reflexes were officially off the charts. Lacking an ultra-rare blade to slice iron, he aggressively channeled his surging magic power instead. He easily severed a massive stone arm with one clean strike. That was the crazy perk of maxing basics. Spotting another brutal assault, he frantically zigzagged up the walls, desperate to escape this hellish pit. A massive hand violently sealed the exit. Ambushed everywhere, he unleashed Black Nether Fist and Core Thunder, obliterating everything. Checking the clock, 17 minutes and 36 seconds remained. Suddenly, a humanoid rock monster violently erupted underground. An entire squad spawned in. These hulking stone warriors gripped massive, bone-crushing hammers. Racing against the ticking clock, things got way worse. The brutal hemorrhage curse suddenly kicked in. Dropping to his knees in agony, a stone soldier mercilessly swung its heavy hammer, colliding with a solid force. A giant hand perfectly blocked the strike. He just summoned his prepaid stone golem skill. His critical blood loss instantly triggered boiling blood, massively buffing his overall attack damage. He swiftly cleaved the stone guard with his dagger. Then, the system demanded he complete his golem training. Mastering the golem meant landing specific combos on enemies. Current quest progress sat at 0 out of 5. He unleashed a massive golem hand, completely crushing the advancing rocky grunts into dust. The remaining foes got brutally punched away as his mighty golem hand towered triumphantly in the air. Meanwhile, 𝖳𝖺유피이 viciously slapped a chained girl awake. Gasping for air, she found herself trapped before a terrifyingly dark altar. Her last memory was sipping soda. Totally panicked, she desperately asked her manager 𝖳𝖺유피이 what the hell was happening. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 glared in frustration. His condensation pill investment failed, and the sacred dragon completely ignored his recent offerings. Driven by sheer greed, he decided to worship a darker deity to score another pill. The dark-haired subordinate instantly freaked out. The horrifying realization hit hard. She was the actual human sacrifice, earning a pathetic 3,001 monthly for backbreaking labor, and now he wanted to steal her life too? She desperately screamed that absolute zero clauses in her work contract agreed to a literal death sacrifice. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 coldly stated that GT1 held zero liability since she signed through a shady dispatch agency. Unbelievable. Pressing a cold blade against her throat, he commanded her to shut up while she sobbed for her life. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the room. Our hero burst through wielding a wooden staff, locking eyes with the manager. He claimed he treated his staff like actual family. Then, he disrespectfully flipped him off. By now, 𝖳𝖺 had completely crushed the stone golem trials. 𝖳𝖺유pi이 stood absolutely paralyzed. He was utterly shook that 𝖳𝖺 actually tracked down this hidden sanctuary and smashed through the outer mechanical guards. 𝖳𝖺 smirked, mocking how unfazed the guy seemed about him surviving. He figured someone had already leaked how impossible he was to slaughter. He heavily hinted that 𝖳𝖺유pii's deceased brother was the informant. 𝖳𝖺유pii's eyes went wide. His mind totally rejected the brutal reality that this guy butchered his own flesh and blood. Greed taking over, he demanded his fallen brother's condensation pill. He lunged forward, desperate to violently rip the loot from Hei's hands. He didn't care one bit about his siblings' final moments. He only backed him against Hei to protect their twisted family honor. But with his brother gone, he greedily claimed absolute rights to the inheritance. Suddenly, a blinding counterattack completely derailed his desperate charge. Hei unleashed a devastating palm strike that instantly atomized Ji-Kyun's right arm. The dark-haired captive flinched away in pure horror as Ji-Kyun's mangled body violently skidded toward the forbidden altar. Crimson pooled across the ancient stone, acting as a twisted catalyst for the beast sealed inside. The fresh carnage instantly awakened it. A suffocating, demonic aura flooded the chamber. The clock was ticking, just 9 minutes and 20 seconds remained. Hei instantly severed the captive's heavy chains. Recognition flashed in her eyes. She remembered him completely ghosting everyone from the guild. She was absolutely floored by his newfound god-tier strength. No time for a lore drop. Hei shot back, commanding the stone titan to drag her to safety. She was entirely speechless as the massive rocky fingers scooped her up. Meanwhile, the pitch-black altar gleefully devoured Ji-Kyun's dying flesh. In the shadows, a pair of terrifying eyes snapped open. A skeletal hand gripped a cursed blade as she emerged from the void. Her body radiated a blinding crimson glow, screaming out an insane boss-level threat. Hei locked eyes with the nightmare. He instinctively scanned her stats, but the sheer volume of her dark energy practically glitched his perception. Just breathing, her atmospheric pressure forcefully ruptured his capillaries. He desperately cast his divine sense to read her cultivation realm, only to suffer a vicious psychic backlash instead. The hellish gate behind her slammed entirely shut. Hei realized Ji-Kyun had accidentally fed himself to an absolute calamity. Without wasting a single breath on dialogue, the Crimson Demon blitzed him. Hei barely threw up his dagger to parry, but the crushing impact instantly slammed him to his knees, and the demonic blade viciously sliced across his shoulder. She immediately transitioned into a lethal roundhouse kick. Hei crossed his left arm to defend, triggering a massive shockwave upon impact. He was launched like a ragdoll straight into the cavern wall. The fiend casually reset her battle stance. Hei coughed up blood, realizing her physical raw stats were entirely broken. He quickly prepped his golem summon for her inevitable next dive. But before his brain could even process, a silver flash already carved into his flesh. High above on the floating island, 3 protective clay effigies violently exploded. The divine dragon visibly tensed, terrified that the ultimate death substitute puppets had been instantly vaporized. It was an absolute omen of total annihilation. Down below, Hei was completely mind-blown that he took critical damage before even seeing the blade move. He heavily collapsed onto the dirt. The Crimson Warrior calmly shut her eyes, channeling deadly violet mana right to her fingertips. She mercilessly prepped the execution swing. Her cursed blade zoomed straight for his throat, yet Hei miraculously caught the strike with his trusty dagger. The apocalyptic clash generated a hurricane-force pressure wave that ripped through the cavern. He realized this monster was hardwired for relentless combo executions. With a desperate flick of his wrist, the colossal golem fist materialized. The stone giant unleashed a devastating hook, but she effortlessly backflipped through the air. She landed gracefully, putting lethal distance between them. Her glowing eyes widened slightly as Hei relentlessly pressed the attack with a crazy dagger blitz. A critical red system alert suddenly spammed his vision, warning of 99% catastrophic damage as his ultimate passive skill, Boiling Blood, furiously ignited. Adrenaline pumped through his veins for this epic showdown. He finally figured out her brutal one-shot kill was actually a combo sequence. No wonder his defenses got absolutely shredded earlier. He unleashed a furious barrage of dagger strikes, but her sword gracefully deflected every single blow. Bam! He tossed a decoy orb. The moment it sparked against her blade, a massive explosion triggered, forcing her to unleash that deadly ultimate attack. He totally baited her. He was banking on that exact move. The system chimed in, confirming the enemy's lethal skill had been successfully prepaid. She triggered Celestial Annihilation. Their violently destructive auras collided mid-air, sparking a blinding shockwave that literally shattered the battlefield. As the dust settled, both warriors stood tall. But a heartbeat later, the fierce swordswoman collapsed to her knees. Our guy lacked a single scratch. She stared in disbelief, entirely mind-blown since her lethal strike definitely landed first. Her hit dealt 0 damage. He smirked, mocking her for getting so flustered she finally broke character and spoke out loud. This whole time, he totally thought she was mute. He coldly reminded her that 2 can play at the deadly preemptive strike game. Originally, he planned to tank the final hit of her ultimate combo, but his stats simply could not handle that insane damage. Surviving that ridiculous blow definitely demanded a way higher cultivation realm. Then it clicked. During their last epic clash, she faked him out and went straight for a brutal follow-up slash right at his throat. Predicting her lethal headshot, he heavily fortified his defenses specifically for that strike. Plus, he sneakily copied her exact slashing technique as a bonus. Her eyes blazed with fury, but a glowing magic circle suddenly interrupted. System warning, he must instantly complete the hand seals for his prepaid jutsu. Otherwise, absolute divine retribution drops. This was his very first encounter with the terrifying heavenly backlash, triggered by abusing those prepaid cosmic laws. Both fighters flashed rapid hand seals. Panic flooded her eyes when her mystic hand gestures violently refused to sync up. A creepy phantom hand erupted from the earth, brutally pinning her arms. Yet, she fiercely struggled, refusing to let her ultimate cast get cancelled. Honestly, stopping her wasn't the goal. He just needed to stall her casting timer. With a furious burst, she finally shattered the earthly binds. She frantically resumed her seals, but time completely ran out. Blinding arrays crashed down. The heavenly tribulation had arrived. An apocalyptic blast obliterated the entire zone, leaving him completely untouched. The system pinged. Quasi-condensation realm prepayment successfully executed. It instantly siphoned the required cultivation and virtue points as payment. Boom! His power level violently surged right into the third condensation realm layer. Fresh system features formally unlocked for advanced prepay. Meanwhile, the battered swordswoman slowly crawled out from the smoking impact crater. He blocked her escape, coldly noting she was still breathing. Staring at the ground, she quietly admitted her absolute defeat. She bluntly told him to kill or skin her. Zero hesitation. Her fearless vibe was insanely different from those pathetic enemies who always beg for mercy. Her icy calmness was honestly super unnerving. As he raised his lethal dagger for the final strike, she squeezed her eyes shut, accepting her fate. But the death blow never came, she gasped, as miraculous energy completely healed her injuries. Smirking, he declared they shared one health bar. He boldly invited her to ascend together. A binding blood curse permanently locked onto this fierce warrior named Long Yin. Any brutal combat damage she takes will instantly transfer straight to the Dragon King. Cut to a luxurious bath, where a fluffy cat snoozed peacefully. Suddenly, the bathwater violently frothed into boiling bubbles as the majestic divine dragon abruptly stood up. The huge splash totally jump-scared the sleeping feline. Jolting awake, the startled cat demanded answers. The divine dragon frowned, sensing an unsettling aura, almost like another parasitic vampire had latched onto her. The system chimed again. His broken advanced payment ability leveled up. He could now literally prepay for top-tier magical artifacts and ultra-rare healing elixirs. The only catch? Item tiers couldn't bypass his current major cultivation realm. The next morning at Academy, Long Yin strutted in rocking a dangerously skimpy outfit. He slowly turned. Fatty and the green-haired dude openly stared. Fatty drooled, desperately wondering who this mysterious new stunner was. The green-haired bro totally roasted him for crushing on his supposed sister-in-law. Fatty went ghost pale, instantly swearing his loyal heart exclusively belonged to Teacher Ju. Our hero played dumb and asked if they had met. She rolled her eyes, sarcastically reminding him about their absolute bloodbath just days prior. She boldly whispered, they literally share the exact same health bar. That insane detail finally sparked his memory. Her brand new hairstyle threw his entire facial recognition off. Shaking his head, he curiously asked how she bypassed the Academy's strict enrollment procedures and magically transferred into his class. Sliding gracefully beside him, she slyly smirked, claiming one classic trick basically works every single time. 2 days ago, the greedy principal happily pocketed solid gold bars to instantly admit a brand new transfer student. Back in reality, homeroom teacher Tao stepped up, loudly announcing that their pathetic small-scale quizzes were officially over. Now, the brutally intense mock exams were officially kicking off. For most rookies here, this meant surviving their absolute first taste of actual, live combat. These kids had aggressively grinded cultivation theories for over a decade, so it was finally time to unleash their hidden powers and prove their true worth. He strictly ordered all students to gather at the massive exam arena. First, grade 12, class 1, got called to legally assemble. Next up, class 2 nervously began roll call. Class 3 reported perfect attendance, directly followed by class 4's booming summons. Yin found the brutal exam incredibly fascinating. Meanwhile, green hair sweated bullets, totally terrified their squad would hopelessly embarrass themselves. Standing before the entire grade, he swore everything would be perfectly fine. Hope instantly sparked in his eyes. But tragically, the dude admitted he was totally shameless and immune to embarrassment. Then, the proctor dropped the official rules. Every single class gets their own designated battle zone. Massive energy barriers completely seal the perimeter, guaranteeing zero interference between testers taking the exact same trial. Every fighter faces the identical beast. Crush your target within 5 minutes, you instantly secure a flawless, perfect score. Fail to score that brutal knockout in time, Your final grade depends strictly on raw damage dealt. Any deadly emergencies pop up? Instructor Joe will immediately intercept from center stage. The ultimate trial officially started. Called students stepped into the arena, stealing their nerves. Up first, Grade 12 Class 1's Zhao Jia Kang and Guo Fan Liang. Class 2's Tang Long and Class 4's Ryugasaki Hanako joined them. He whispered, "Why are Yin sect members lurking here?" The green-haired guy muttered back, "It is a mandatory mission straight from the Cultivation Education Bureau. Thanks to the elite sect peace treaty, basically every high school must host a few Yin sect exchange students." He assumed only ordinary academies handled exchange programs. Seeing them in a hardcore cultivation high school blew his mind. Suddenly, a long, black-haired girl sensed a hidden presence. It was Ryugasaki Hanako, her piercing gaze sweeping the crowd. Her killer intuition was undeniably sharp. Yin scowled, furious that this stranger glared at her master. Nobody glares at her little bro but her. The green-haired dude sweat dropped at their insane sibling hierarchy. He was left entirely, utterly speechless. The battles kicked off, and the trial beast spawned. A massive, sinister portal ripped open at center stage. A giant eye peeked through, revealing a grotesque mushroom mutant. Instructor Jian instantly felt its suffocating, ominous aura. Panic gripped him. That was the legendary Cloud Canopy Demon Lord, previously sealed away by the Taizhong sect. He snapped at Instructor Tao that dropping this boss for a simple mock trial was absolute overkill. Tao called him soft, ruthlessly mocking his status as a mere gym teacher. Tao smugly clarified that, if this were the real demon's body, they would all be utterly annihilated despite the seals. These test beasts were merely cloned minions, spawned from its original spores. While these clones technically hit the condensation realm, their raw power paled compared to the elite proctors. Plus, heavy suppression stones locked down the arena, guaranteeing absolute safety. Meanwhile, a rookie unleashed blazing fire talismans. The blast forced the mutant to recoil. The proctor barked that, failing to inflict any visible damage before time ran out, would equal an absolute 0 on their record. The kid casting the flames practically broke down sobbing. Another challenger hurled a savage meteor shower of rocks, only to eat a devastating counterpunch from the beast. Sure, the guy landed a solid hit, but the monster violently yeeted him out of bounds. Instant failure. The brutal scores rolled in. Zhang Shuaiwen snagged 61 points, Wu Liwan totally flunked, and Chen Zhonglin barely scraped 68 points. The crowd was reeling from this insanely brutal first trial. Literally nobody could break the 70-point ceiling. Only a lucky handful actually survived. Everyone desperately wondered which sadistic instructor designed this nightmare, vowing to expose them. The green-haired bro exhaled, thankful he wouldn't look like a total clown since everyone else was already failing miserably. Then, his jaw dropped. Instructor Jian snapped, furious that Tao had crossed a massive line. This insane difficulty would completely shatter the rookie's morale. However, Tao coldly countered, if these kids fold under this level of pressure, they are officially the weakest trash he has ever trained. Suddenly, movement in the arena caught his eye. Hanako was sprinting from the beast, rushing straight toward the dead-end barrier. He gasped, convinced she was straight-up rage-quitting. But inches before hitting the energy wall, she leaped. She didn't forfeit. Instead, she kicked off the shield, using that explosive rebound to supercharge her incoming ultimate strike. The mutant lunged for a lethal punch. Flash! Her blade cleared its scabbard, dicing the monstrous creature into literal confetti. Instructor Jian stood paralyzed by that flawless execution. 100 points. The entire stadium erupted in absolute disbelief. While everyone else got totally wrecked, she effortlessly secured a perfect score. They called her an absolute demon, questioning her origins. Someone quickly whispered she was the terrifying exchange prodigy straight out of the Yin sect. Class 4A's top-tier samurai watched her closely. A cocky smirk spread across his face. This was merely the warm-up. He had secretly rigged a massive bonus trial. Toxic mushrooms were already erupting from shattered concrete across the battlefield, linking directly to a far more horrifying nightmare lurking underground. The next squad was summoned. Up first, Grade 12, Class 1, Li Junhao. The green-haired bro totally bet on him scoring perfectly, considering he is the undisputed king of Class 1. Catching Hei's random hand gestures, he totally questioned what the guy was swiping at. Knowing regular dudes couldn't see his holographic system wheel, Hei casually brushed it off as swatting pesky bugs. Top rankings meant absolutely nothing to him. His only obsession was securing those sweet magical artifacts as an early payout. While fangirls screamed their lungs out, a cocky Junhao prepared to slaughter the exam beasts. He desperately wanted to flex that, even among top-tier students, his raw power was entirely unmatched. Sinister black fog flooded the arena, oozing directly from the mushroom beast. Teacher Tao stood baffled, wondering what psycho designed this nightmare. Junhao smirked. totally convinced he could still one-shot the freakish creature despite its sudden terrifying mutation. Glowing runes exploded across his knuckles as he struck. The crushing blow sent the hulking creature rocketing across the arena. Teacher Jian gasped at the sheer impact. Tao revealed that Junhao literally tattooed magic arrays onto his arm to maximize his devastating strike. This prodigy was essentially locked in for Peking or Tsinghua University. Meanwhile, the instructor swallowed down bitter, raging envy. He secretly seethed that this powerhouse wasn't his own student. The blast's shockwave literally shattered the concrete floor into craters. Junhao arrogantly claimed that flawless strike secured his elite university spot, finally proving who the true apex predator really was. Suddenly, all the blood drained from his face. The faculty panicked as the nightmarish beast simply brushed off the attack, standing perfectly intact. Panic set in. His martial arts form was absolutely flawless, meaning his kinetic energy transfer had been perfectly executed. Gritting his teeth, he prepared for round 2, but a terrified teacher Jian shrieked at him to dodge immediately. Ignoring the warning, he charged forward. Before his knuckles connected, a brutal counterattack ruptured his stomach, launching him through the air. His body slammed into the concrete barrier with bone-crushing force. A frantic teacher Jian sprinted over, hoisting the battered student up. Crimson blood splattered from his lips. Despite bracing for the devastating impact, severe internal trauma was completely unavoidable. This creature definitely violated exam protocols. Jian desperately grabbed his communicator, begging for elite backup against this totally unranked anomaly. The dispatcher questioned the assigned threat level. Jian frantically screamed for the absolute highest-tier masters they had on standby. As the monstrosity charged, glowing binds locked its ankles. The head proctor felt deeply insulted by this absolute chaos. Furious that this beast completely ignored his authoritative presence, he summoned magical chains to heavily shackle its massive arms. However, the true horror had just awakened. Lethal spikes erupted from the mutant's spine, violently shredding the earth around them. While the proctor strained to maintain his magical grip, a subterranean force absolutely decimated the concrete beneath his feet. Sensing imminent doom, his entire zone violently detonated. The beast shattered its restraints, only to face a blistering meteor strike from above. The freakish plant countered, spewing toxic spores from its cap that violently collided with the descending inferno. A massive shockwave rocked the stadium. Bursting through the thick smoke, the predator locked its murderous gaze on the rooftop sniper. Tracing the fiery assault, Hanako observed the brutal carnage from her high vantage point before silently drawing her twin blades. Her samurai companion demanded to know her crazy plan. Without hesitating, she swore to plunge into the bloodbath and assist. Saizaki Kaku of the Ryugasaki clan furiously yelled, calling her an absolute idiot. This entire deadly trial was meticulously rigged for her ultimate success. The sinister plan required this overpowered anomaly to conveniently slaughter all the elite prodigies standing in her way. That massacre would securely hand her the golden ticket to Tsinghua, Peking, or even Shuxian University. Disgusted by these cowardly tactics, she completely rejected the rigged victory. Her fierce resolve was set on butchering that foul beast herself. Suddenly, agonizing torment seized her brain. She clutched her skull, shrieking in pure agony as Kaku ruthlessly activated his soul-binding curse. Kaku smirked, thankful he kept this wild card on a tight leash. Without it, their father's masterfully orchestrated conspiracy would crumble entirely. Despite her dark lineage, Hanako possessed zero of the ruthless, bloodthirsty traits that famously defined the infamous Ryugasaki dynasty. Her original bloodline heavily plagued her with an unforgivable weakness. She remained deeply compassionate, honorable, and fiercely heroic. He seriously questioned why the patriarch wasted elite resources on such trash. Suddenly, a deafening blast tore through the academy roof, breaking his focus. Teacher Tao went flying through the debris. Panic struck him as he gauged the beast's aura, an absolute nightmare at the 5th condensation layer. Cursing whoever approved this apocalyptic trial, he instantly manifested a glowing, heavy-duty astral barrier around his body. The mutant blitzed forward, moving faster than human perception. With zero time to dodge, Tao frantically deployed an absolute omnidirectional defense matrix. The beast crashed into the barrier. Hairline fractures violently spiderwebbed across the shield before it completely shattered, allowing brutal claws to strangle Tao. A deeply psychotic smile stretched across its face. Tao violently gagged, his eyes rolling backward, as oxygen was ruthlessly squeezed from his lungs. Just then, a blinding flash cleanly diced the monster's muscular arm into absolute ribbons. Naturally, it was our legendary main character stepping up. Rewind 15 minutes. A terrified green-haired kid violently shook beside Hay, dreading the looming monstrous threat. He couldn't believe it. A so-called condensation realm expert, totally paralyzed by a mere demonic aura? Pathetic. Because this nightmare fuel? It was radiating the sickening power of a 7th-layer condensation realm beast. Yin actually pinpointed its exact level. Һэй was genuinely impressed by her killer instincts, but she just smirked. Her warrior's physique was vibrating, her blood practically boiling, sounding the alarm about this monster's true class. Without missing a beat, Һэй tapped his interface wheel. Click. A massive barrier snapped into place around the perimeter. He wasn't locking them in, he was ensuring this freak couldn't escape. This creature clearly wanted a massacre. On paper, Һэй was only sitting at the third layer of the condensation realm, but thanks to his ridiculously glitched-out health bar, his actual combat power rivaled the 7th layer. Time to hit the system market. Scrolling past the newly unlocked trash tier, his eyes locked onto a masterpiece. The absolute best weapon, instantly available through advance payment. Its stats were utterly cracked. By pumping mana into the hilt, this bad boy could devour and steal abilities from other magical artifacts. The only catch? The target artifact couldn't outlevel the weapon's current rank. Still, insanely overpowered. Even better, channeling mana let the blade absorb his own ultimate techniques to blast them back on command. He instantly locked in the advance payment for the Cloud Rune Guide. Sliding it beside his dagger, he gave Yin a dead serious look. Once he dropped in, she needed to hold the high ground. His gamer instincts screamed that this hidden boss would definitely trigger a second phase. Yin gave a sharp nod, but she had to ask, shouldn't the Academy's elite instructors be handling this nightmare? Һэй chuckled. Her radar for absolute powerhouses was flawless, but she was totally blind to absolute weaklings. He broke it down. Those so-called elite teachers? They were barely scraping the bottom of the first layer of the condensation realm. The only exception was their homeroom teacher 𝖳, sitting at the 5th layer. If 𝖳 had time to lay out a massive magic formation, he might survive. But ambushed out of nowhere, the man was entirely outgunned. Luckily, sudden death matches were exactly where Һэй thrived. Ding. The weapon refinement finished, granting his blade the vicious boiling blood attribute. Down below, Teacher 𝖳 was choking on death until Һэй dropped in. The man gasped, totally shocked by the transfer student. Һэй didn't waste a breath. Barking out that an outer barrier was trapping the students, he ordered the teacher to shatter that force field immediately, while Һэй personally slaughters this abomination. But 𝖳 was a fiercely proud educator, desperate to be the ultimate shield for his kids. Gritting his teeth, 𝖳 fell back to guard them. The beast just tilted its head, sickening fungal spores violently erupting from its grotesque neck. In a flash of sickening flesh, its severed arm completely regenerated. Һэй narrowed his eyes. The healing factor on this thing was absolutely broken. Classic fungus-type monster hacks. But before he could strategize, the beast blitzed forward like a freight train. Һэй barely raised his blade. The impact was heavy. Its fist was actually hardening like steel, and it was already winding up a devastating left hook. Һэй instantly analyzed the trick. It was hyper-compressing its dark aura right onto its knuckles for maximum armor penetration. The monster lunged for the kill. Bam! The sheer kinetic force sent Һэй skidding backward. He desperately dug his heels in, barely avoiding a spine-crushing collision with the arena wall. But the fiend didn't stop. Blurring out of existence, it teleported right beside him. A massive, aura-infused fist slammed straight down into his position. A blinding shockwave kicked up a massive dust cloud. Up top, Teacher Jian sweat bullets, certain the new kid was atomized. When Teacher 𝖳 urgently yelled for Jian to jump down and rescue the boy, Jian just froze, completely paralyzed by cowardice. 𝖳 knew the truth. Jian was a coward who always sniped from a safe distance. The only reason Jian ever protected the top-ranked kid earlier was definitely a massive bribe from the kid's wealthy family. Otherwise, he wouldn't lift a finger. Jian's pathetic, averting gaze confirmed every dirty suspicion. 𝖳 let out a heavy sigh. The transfer student had balls of absolute steel, but courage couldn't punch through a death sentence. Nobody here could solo that freak. Their only hope was shattering that damn force field before the beast climbed up. Down in the crater, the mushroom fiend mercilessly spam-punched where Һэй had stood. Teacher Jian couldn't even stomach the sight. In his mind, Һэй was already reduced to a bloody smear on the pavement. The beast grinned, drunk on the slaughter until a hand shot out of the smoke, catching its giant fist cold. Jian gasped. Һэй's boiling blood passive just went live. My turn. Һэй smirked, channeling his aura into a terrifying counterswing. The blade connected, launching the massive beast entirely across the bloody arena. Staggering onto its grotesque knees, the monster looked up just in time to see a blinding streak of divine light. It was Һэй's descending blade. Panicking, the beast caught the strike with its palms. But Һэй smiled coldly, triggering his dark sword Heart Thunder. An orb of pure abyss manifested at the tip of his blade, inches from the creature's ugly face. Boom! Absolute devastation. Only a charred foot remained. Toxic spores fluttered away. Jian's jaw hit the floor. A literal one-shot kill. But Һэй didn't celebrate. The hairs on his neck stood straight up. He whipped his head toward the crimson sky, hovering right above them, was a duplicate horror, boasting a massive, unblinking crimson eye on its cap. With a sickening screech, the giant cap detached and spun like a buzzsaw. Dozens of toxic spikes materialized, morphing into homing missiles raining straight toward 𝖬. Planted his feet as the beast unleashed a massive missile barrage. Total chaos erupted. The rest of the class scattered like frightened mice. Trapped inside the arena's barrier, it was an absolute slaughterhouse. But 𝖬 simply flashed a hand seal, triggering that hijacked golem shield array. Panic hijacked the students' minds. The blast zone was just too massive. Escaping this nightmare? Literally impossible. A deadly projectile locked onto a helpless kid. Boom! A devastating shockwave ripped right through the air, triggering an apocalyptic chain reaction. Hundreds of warheads detonated at the exact same second. The terrified kid squeezed his eyes shut, but wildly, he didn't feel a single scratch. Tears of absolute joy flooded the battlefield. But wait, their jaws dropped. Who on earth just pulled off this god-tier defensive barrier? Sustaining an array this colossal requires an insane amount of mana. It literally devours a person's entire cultivation base. Whoever cast this absolute masterpiece was definitely a generational prodigy. That shimmering golden dome was practically invincible. Yin clicked her tongue. So the ruthless transfer student actually had a heart? He literally just played savior for the whole class. Protecting the weaklings was totally pointless, especially those elite snobs. Once the brutal cultivation university trials kick off, those same kids would stab him in the back. Meanwhile, 𝖬's monocore was running dangerously dry, but the towering mushroom cloud above finally faded away. The beast snarled in pure rage. Flash! It instantly teleported right into 𝖬's blind spot. Reflexes on point, 𝖬 violently punted his blade at the monster, launching himself backward before that lethal fist could shatter his ribs. But this monster's speed was completely busted. It vanished and materialized behind him. Clang! 𝖬 barely parried the crushing blow with his steel. Crackling black lightning surged down his blade. Swoosh! A flawless horizontal slash instantly decapitated the beast, forcing its headless body to stagger. Disgusting flesh instantly morphed together. In a fraction of a second, the creature's head fully regenerated like it was absolutely nothing. That heavy lightning-infused strike was supposed to be a guaranteed one-shot. Since this freakish thing keeps healing, the brain obviously wasn't its weak point. Its core had to be buried deep in the chest. Suddenly, the monster's face violently split open, revealing a demonic third eye glowing right in the center. Whoosh! It vanished again. Its agility was scaling up like crazy, but 𝖬's instincts flared. He predicted the drop zone and swung with everything. A perfect dodge. The creature slammed a devastating hook into his ribs. 𝖬 violently spat out blood as he crashed away, while the beast began circling him. It was moving so insanely fast that countless phantom afterimages trapped him in a deadly hurricane. Despite the overwhelming storm, 𝖬's sword danced like a master. Bang, crash. Relentless fists rained down, bruising and battering him from every angle, yet the absolute madman refused to fall. Watching from afar, Teacher Jian let out a heavy sigh, bummed out that their prodigy was getting wrecked. He seriously prayed this mysterious new kid could pull off a legendary comeback. But Teacher Tao just scoffed, calling the whole fight a complete dead end. Beating a mutated monstrosity with that kind of insane stat difference? Absolutely impossible for a mere rookie. Still, going toe-to-toe against a literal nightmare while being completely outclassed? That takes some seriously insane guts. His raw combat power easily cemented him in the Academy's elite top 10. Meanwhile, Yin's eyes stayed glued to the deadly crossfire. She gritted her teeth in frustration. Why wasn't he busting out the overpowered ultimate that completely annihilated her? The beast kept driving him back. The creature's insane agility was a massive cheat code. Those split-second explosive speed bursts were totally unblockable. Even defending with zero blind spots, brutal damage kept leaking through. Boom! 150% critical damage received. His boiling bloodline furiously awakened. His aura shifted drastically. He dropped into an aggressive stance and hoisted his blade to the heavens. Teacher Jian blinked in pure confusion. The kid was literally frozen like a statue. Did he just accept his grim fate and surrender? Boom! 𝖬 unleashed the mythical heavenly law of annihilation. A catastrophic shockwave erupted, blasting past the teachers and totally shattering the arena's unbreakable ward. Teacher Tao nearly choked on his spit. That legendary barrier was pulverized like glass, and he couldn't even scratch it at full power. His confidence completely tanked. He literally wanted to hand in his resignation right then and there. As the dust settled, the horrific beast was totally vaporized. Loot dropped. 𝖬 bagged a rare durian fiend core. Once properly refined, any skilled beastmaster could summon it as a heavy-hitting combat familiar. Ding! The system aggressively flashed warnings, demanding he finalize the ultimate ritual for his legendary new technique. His fingers blurred through complex divine seals, officially locking in the overpowered skill. Teacher Jian's jaw was basically on the floor. That lethal final flash was way too fast for human eyes. He grabbed Tao's shoulder. He wasn't just top 10 material anymore. This kid could legitimately rival the absolute apex monsters of the academy. But Tao just stared blankly, utterly crushed by his own pathetic weakness. Fast forward to sunset. He and Yin strolled casually through a quiet park. The absolute madman had already broken through to the 9th layer of the condensation realm. He was officially strong enough to impart martial arts. Yin scrolled through her feed. He was literally going viral as the academy's most insane dark horse. The comment section was going wild. Everyone agreed this overpowered rookie was 100% locked in for the elite Ivy League of cultivation. She caught him swiping his fingers through empty space like a total weirdo and gave him a super questioning look. He casually smirked and said he was just paying his premium health insurance. Boom. 30% of his hard-earned experience and merit points instantly transferred to the system. Gazing at the divine dragon, he realized his wounds had completely stopped closing. That greedy system only patched him up after the health insurance payment cleared. Suddenly, a sinister black mist totally severed his path to her. His eyes narrowed as pitch-black shadows swallowed the sky, devouring the entire area. This was the legendary Black Abyss Forbidden Domain. It was an absolute cage. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out, totally isolating them from the outside world's sight. Assassins exclusively dropped this formation to permanently silence their targets. Suddenly, a kunai sliced through the air. He manifested his hand golem to deflect it, but that blade was cursed. A massive explosion erupted on impact, forcing Qianhui to instantly leap back into the shadows, but she landed straight into a pool of abyssal sludge that swallowed her whole. As the smoke faded, he actually smirked at their twisted trap, carving a micro-explosion array onto a throwing knife, then triggering an ancient battle formation just to drag one student into the abyss? Wild. Qianhui suddenly blitzed forward. She unleashed a vicious slash, but he instantly raised his own steel to parry the blow. She lashed out again, striking his hand. But wait, she purposefully used the blunt edge. Catching on, he let his weapon clatter to the ground. Qianhui flipped backward, resetting her stance. He raised an eyebrow, asking if all that flashy choreography was just to snatch his weapon. She confessed her father ordered an execution. To her family, he was just a massive roadblock on her path to those elite college academies. But playing dirty just was not her vibe. Her actual master plan was to confiscate his blade and totally fake his death report. The only catch? He had to pack up, flee the country immediately, and completely ghost the college entrance exams forever. Because if he stayed claiming top ranks at school, the ruthless Yin sect would never stop hunting him. Suddenly, her stolen blade flared with intense light. A system alert blared. The post-payment quest for the Weapon Cloud Ruin Guide was officially active. An absolute clash of dominance instantly kicked off. Thick, ominous smoke violently swirled around them both. Freaking out, she demanded answers as she bolted up to a high tree branch. Her jaw dropped as the scenery entirely warped. Leaping onto a nearby roof, her mind raced, trying to process this crazy sudden teleportation. He calmly revealed they had entered the realm of past reflections. It was an ethereal dimension where you can watch historical memories unfold, but absolutely cannot change fate. That premium blade possessed a deep connection to her aura, which instantly force-started this delayed system quest. By grabbing the weapon, the system penalty aggressively dragged both of their consciousnesses straight into this historical illusion zone. Glancing down at her empty palms, she gasped. The legendary sword she just snatched had completely vanished. He warned her that the sword's true physical form was hidden somewhere inside this memory. If they failed to locate it, he would be weaponless forever. A hauntingly familiar melody drifted through the quiet air. Her breath hitched as she spotted a tiny figure sprinting toward the courtyard. It was a flashback. A miniature Qianhui bounded up to the massive doors, cheerfully yelling to her father that she was finally home. But the present Qianhui watched in pure, paralyzing horror. The courtyard was an absolute bloodbath. Her past self screamed in pure agony for her slaughtered siblings. Her mother lay totally motionless, a cold steel blade piercing her chest. Suddenly, a chilling figure turned to face the terrified girl. It was her trusted senior brother. Why was he draped in the dark robes of the rival Yin sect? Trembling, she demanded answers, but he just stalked forward with a sickeningly twisted, psychotic grin. The memory violently shifted back to her 5th-grade days. Young Qianhui was parkouring through the canopy, unleashing a flawless barrage of throwing knives. Absolute dead center, landing flawlessly. She looked up as a young woman lounging on a branch praised her insane talent, admitting the kid was way ahead of her level. That elegant, smiling observer was none other than her fiercely beloved older sister, the absolute prodigy Qianjing. Smirking, Qianjing pointed out a completely hidden blind spot behind a massive oak. Without skipping a beat, Qianhui flicked her wrist. Qianjing's jaw completely dropped at the sheer disrespect of physics. The kid literally launched a second blade just to violently ricochet the first one mid-flight. Boom! A perfectly calculated hit. She instantly followed up with a heavy throw that literally blasted a crater straight through the solid wood. Inspecting the massive damage, Qianjing was totally speechless. Little Qianhui had flawlessly executed a blind, over-the-shoulder strike. Eagerly begging for her final score, the kid beamed as her sister declared a passing grade. As sunset approached, the duo happily headed back to the estate. Bursting through the heavy doors, Qianhui announced their return. Her father warmly ruffled her hair, asking about her intense daily cultivation progress. She proudly flexed about absolutely destroying every single dummy, especially nailing that impossible trick shot behind the massive trunk. The sharp sound of splitting timber interrupted their vibe. It was Hua Zhang, relentlessly training. She watched in total awe as his blade aura had clearly leveled up again. Whispering, Qianjing asked if their father was actually planning to pass down the legendary iron wall blade technique to him. The patriarch sighed, admitting he was seriously tempted. Even though the kid shared zero blood ties with the main clan, he had shown nothing but fierce, unyielding loyalty for 3 grueling years. The master saw a pure-hearted, respectful kid who served tea with a smile and pushed past absolute agony during his brutal training regimens. He took absolute ownership of his flaws. The master truly believed he had found the perfect successor, right until cold steel violently erupted straight through the back of his chair. Coughing up blood as the fatal strike pierced his heart, the absolutely shattered patriarch gasped, begging his adopted son for a single explanation. Zhang's eyes turned completely dead. He coldly whispered that he was never family. He was a ruthless sleeper agent born to the Yin clan, burying his true name for 6 years just for this exact, bloody moment. He infiltrated them just to steal the iron wall blade technique. With ultimate mastery finally secured, slaughtering the entire bloodline was simply his next logical step. Coughing blood, the clan master spat a desperate threat. The courtyard was swarming with elites, and they absolutely would not let this traitor walk away alive. A bloody hand gripped the doorframe. It was Chunjing, dragging her broken body forward, just to reach her dying father. Her fatal chest wound was bleeding out fast. The clan master shook with devastating grief as his precious daughter collapsed and breathed her very last. Pure rage consumed him. This monster actually poisoned everyone. Zhang just smirked, reciting the Ying clan's dark motto, steal the technique, then exterminate the bloodline. Jung sighed, disappointed that the youngest daughter was still stuck at school. Her exceptional talent made her an incredibly juicy target. Right on cue, a sweet voice announced her return. Terrified, the bleeding master begged the assassin to spare his completely innocent child. Jung chuckled darkly. Qianhui possessed a top-tier spiritual root. He would simply wipe her memories clean and raise the girl as his very own daughter. He mockingly promised they wouldn't be separated forever. The second Qianhui started university, he planned to violently harvest her precious spiritual root, sending her to the afterlife to reunite with Daddy. Before his twisted monologue ended, the old master had already perished. Jung casually greeted Qianhui at the bloody entrance. He yawned, claiming he got super bored waiting, so he slaughtered her family for fun. Dropping her bag, she screamed a tearful death vow. She launched a barrage of throwing knives, but the villain didn't even flinch. With effortless sword swings, he deflected the lethal strike. He instantly recognized her signature move, the legendary omnidirectional flying dagger technique, an art designed for striking deadly blind spots. Qianhui was undeniably the greatest prodigy their clan had ever seen. Against his mastered iron wall blade technique, her absolute best attacks were just a pathetic joke. One stray blade pierced the roof, while another stopped mere inches from Jung's smirking face. In a flash, he viciously seized her throat. He slammed her into the ground with bone-crushing force, knocking her out cold. Without hesitation, he triggered the sinister heart-bewitching curse. Her past vanished instantly. Renamed Ryugasaki Hanako, she became his obedient puppet daughter, destined to be dragged straight into the Dark Ying clan. He would groom her powers until harvest day. Waking up hollow, she blindly called him father, while Jung callously burned the blood-soaked manor to ashes. The murderers vanished into the night. Back in the present, Hanako stared at the blazing illusion of her ruined home, completely paralyzed by shock. Devastating hatred for Jung ignited her soul. Hei urgently warned her not to interfere with the memory, but her blinding rage took over. She wildly swung to execute the phantom killer, but upon impact, her steel completely shattered into dust. Jung actually paused, sensing a faint, murderous intent. Innocent Hanako tugged his sleeve, asking her fake dad what was wrong. Brushing off the chilling sensation, he claimed someone was nearby. The twisted duo then vanished into the shadows. He casually promised to hire an Eastern language tutor later. Witnessing this sick manipulation, present-day Hanako shook with uncontrollable agony. Heartbreaking sobs escaped her throat as the ultimate betrayal crushed her spirit. Suddenly, a blue system alert warned Hei about a massive realm shift. The ghostly memory dimension instantly morphed into a fully interactive, solid reality. Their brand new system quest? Locate the crucial hidden artifact. Target, the Cloud Ruin Guide. Hei locked his eyes on the glowing prompt, leading her deep into the charred ruins. They scavenged the ashes for any surviving mementos. Suddenly, Hanako's sharp divine sense locked onto a powerful aura pulsating beneath the rubble. The artifact was buried insanely deep. Stepping up, Hei unleashed his heavy golem hand, violently unearthing the hidden treasure from the blackened soil. She stared at the unburied weapon, but Hei gently pushed the cold steel into her trembling hands. It wasn't his blade, it rightfully belonged to her. He revealed her biological father left this legacy behind, guiding her shattered soul back to reality. Destiny always meant for her to wield it. He then handed over her father's secret cultivation scroll. This legendary manual was custom-built to completely obliterate the iron wall blade technique. Hei asked what was wrong. She gritted her teeth, explaining that mastering this divine art was absurdly difficult. Reaching the first layer takes decades of grueling training. With burning vengeance, she absolutely couldn't wait that long. Plus, the villainous Ryugasaki Shoichi would instantly sense her rebellion. But Hei just smirked, promising that the agonizing wait was officially over. Bewildered, she demanded answers. Suddenly, Hei pressed glowing fingers against her forehead, surging golden energy straight into her soul. Complex martial forms and sacred incantations violently downloaded directly into her brain. The ultimate breaking blade technique had just been system advanced to her. A system chime echoed, boldly declaring her debt. She was now fully responsible for repaying this massive power loan. The system terms? A massive 30% tax on all future cultivation experience and merit points, funneled straight to Hei as interest. Staring blankly, she asked what that was. Hei casually explained his overpowered system panel. The holographic interface would only unlock if she agreed to his advance. Even if she rejected it, his ruthless interest rate still applied anyway. However, she could cancel the crazy power-up. With zero hesitation, she crashed to her knees, bowing to her savior. Hei officially welcomed her as his disciple, swiftly ordering her to stand tall. Their legendary master and student bond was now permanently forged. Laughing off his lack of epic newbie gifts, the master promised to hook his brand new apprentice up with some top-tier magical robes very soon. Just like that, the Cloud Ruin Guide's final mission was officially cleared. Qianhui watched the morning sun pierce the horizon, tracing the glowing sigil branded on her skin. Her master's words echoed. This blood curse bound their souls together, fusing their life force into a single health bar. Now, every ounce of pain she suffered would transfer directly to him, her master. He had also warned her about the blade's boiling blood, passive. The more brutal the hits she tanked, the more insanely overpowered her strikes became. A harsh voice snapped her back to reality. Kaku demanded she pay attention to their father. Shoichi smirked, claiming that while Hanako's exam performance exposed a glaring psychological weakness, she finally embraced her dark side. She slaughtered those extras, blocking her path, and even secured him a legendary weapon. Shoichi gloated that his years of grooming her had not been wasted. But Qianhui's aura shifted. Fixing him with an icy glare, she boldly stated there was a twisted contradiction she needed to clarify. Kaku immediately barked at her for dropping honorifics. She scoffed, questioning if their filthy actions even deserved basic respect. Shoichi's eyes narrowed into daggers, demanding an explanation. Did this brat actually dare to question his lifelong righteous path? She spat back that he constantly preached about justice, benevolence, and wisdom, and blind loyalty. Yet behind closed doors, he orchestrated brutal looting, arson, and literally wiping out entire bloodlines. Kaku totally lost his mind, screaming that their father's ruthless choices protected the sect. Sweeping her hair into a tight bun, she roasted them for faking cheap manners, while totally lacking actual morals. They obsessed over petty rules, yet possessed zero true honor. She secured her hair with a glowing moon crescent hairpin, a straight-up high-tier artifact. This epic loot heavily reduced her mana drain during spellcasting. She kept tearing into their massive hypocrisy, exposing how they fussed over nothing, threw away all shame, and groveled to power while stomping on kindness. Tossing her outer robe, she flexed an epic enchanted battle skirt. This premium gear massively boosted her spiritual attacks by 30%. Furthermore, the fabric literally auto-healed by devouring ambient mana. Shoichi caught the deadly aura surging around her clenched fists. Instantly summoning a barrage of blades, he snatched his primary weapon. Qianhui coldly declared that while the weak submit, the powerful had devolved into glorified thugs. Snapping completely, Kaku lunged for the kill, but before his strike connected, she ruthlessly punted his face, launching his body through the exit. Shoichi's blood ran cold. She knew their darkest secret. The mask finally slipped. He roared for the entire clan to mobilize. Swarms of elite assassins materialized, completely surrounding her. He ordered her immediate capture. The mob swarmed her like bloodthirsty wolves. A bald brute initiated the clash, swinging his heavy blade. Parrying effortlessly with her scabbard, she delivered a skull-crushing kick. Another target rushed in, only to be cleaved straight down the middle. Dodging midair, a deadly barrage of shurikens rained down. Without hesitating, she hurled her own blade like a homing missile, instantly pinning the sniper by his throat. As the corpse dropped, the shocked survivors tightened their deadly circle. Leaping back to retrieve her weapon, multiple enemies struck at once. Sparks flew as she blocked the synchronized ambush. They relentlessly pressed their advantage, trying to crush her guard. While the vanguard locked her down, a rogue assassin lunged at her blind spot. Catching the movement, she instantly triggered her wall lightning flash. A blinding shockwave blasted the entire strike force into oblivion. She rocketed straight through the ceiling. A confused guard scanned the debris. Before he could blink, she dropped down and shredded him. Hitting the floor, another enemy tried to exploit her low stance. With a vicious flick, she severed his entire arm. Spinning instantly, she decapitated the next fool. Her violent rampage continued. The sect members were absolutely terrified, getting utterly destroyed by one solo girl. Desperate to survive, they formed up tight defensive ranks. Meanwhile, the true heavy hitters observed the bloodbath from the shadows. These veterans were not stupid. Only brainless rookies actually believed that swarming a powerhouse with sheer numbers would ever guarantee victory. After all, she was the sect leader's hand-picked prodigy. Despite being an outsider lacking his direct genetic gifts, her raw mastery over the blade reigned absolute within the faction. Okawa, Menta, a legendary Yin sect swordmaster, totally realized this massacre would not end until an elite boss like him finally intervened. Nagano Nakayasu, another terrifying pillar among the three swordmasters, nodded in grim agreement. He then questioned why Menta was chilling on the sidelines instead of diving into the chaotic bloodbath like a true warrior. But Menta played it smart. With the other elites camping, he refused to act as mere cannon fodder. Plus, his signature quick draw demanded flawless timing, forcing him to patiently stalk his prey. Eventually, the floor became a graveyard of scattered corpses. Qianhui was panting heavily, barely able to keep her balance. Spotting her massive fatigue, Menta locked onto his opening. Unleashing his blade, he blitzed forward. Her survival instincts flared, but as she whipped around, a blinding flash of steel tore right through her. Crimson sprayed the air as her attacker flashed a sick, twisted smirk before blasting her backward with overwhelming force. Yin's instincts flared instantly. Sensing Qianhui's spiritual aura dangerously fading, she quickly turned to demand if he seriously planned on just standing by. Honestly, he was totally shocked by her sudden concern, fully expecting her to hold a massive grudge. I mean, Qianhui did literally lock her inside a mystical formation earlier, but whatever, breaking out of that trap was absolute child's play. Yet finding the area completely deserted upon escaping, her first thought was that this dude actually betrayed them and bailed. Brushing off the accusation, he smirked and unveiled his master plan. A massive, blazing golden barrier suddenly erupted around the entire building, engulfing the absolute whole zone in blinding light. Yin was beyond baffled. How the hell did locking everyone inside this deathmatch actually help Qianhui? He almost spilled his ultimate secret, casually muttering that it was perfectly fine, as long as the ancient dragon absorbed her lethal damage. Catching his massive slip-up, he smoothly lied, claiming he would protect her himself. Besides, fully supercharged by the boiling blood effect, his faith in Qianhui's potential was absolute. He'd dive in if death loomed, but right now, he was making damn sure none of these pathetic scumbags could escape alive. Their ultimate vengeance demanded nothing less than totally erasing them from existence. Meanwhile, Qianhui lay completely shattered in her own blood, as Menta practically flexed his supposed one-shot execution. But his smug grin vanished. Defying death itself, her violently trembling body actually stood back up. His fatal neck slash somehow completely failed. Rewinding the clash in his mind, he realized she perfectly parried his strike at the absolute last microsecond. Pure luck, he thought, charging again, with murderous intent. As he blitzed forward for round 2, her aura exploded into spirit object control. The solid ground violently ruptured beneath them, launching jagged debris straight at his face. But Menta scoffed at the desperate trick. With boiling blood fully active, her damage cap sat at a mere 30%. Flashing a cold smirk, she declared stopping him was never the goal. It was a total bait to force an early draw, instantly launching her brutal counterstrike. Shock rippled through her eyes as steel clashed against steel. Menta laughed, bragging that even stripping away his signature quick draw advantage, his monstrous reflexes were more than enough to defend. Without hesitation, she activated the breaking blade technique, turning her sword completely ethereal to phase right through his solid guard, violently carving into his flesh. Instantly, A holographic system notification triggered the legendary Blade of Crushing Momentum. Her hardcore mission required executing this exact devastating skill 5 complete times during combat. However, wielding this insane power brutally drained massive chunks of her spiritual energy reserves. Landing a flawless parry meant her strikes literally bypassed any defense, delivering absolute devastation straight through their weapon. But with her mana pool dangerously empty, the system desperately warned her to stall for recovery before unleashing her final lethal strikes. Watching from the sidelines, Yin Sect elites Matsunaga Yuno and Nagano Nakayasu sneered as their weakest link got totally obliterated. Nakayasu's eyes narrowed, spotting her pristine, absolutely undamaged sword. His mind raced, totally baffled by how she slaughtered a man right through a perfect block. Meanwhile, a dark curiosity consumed Yuno's thoughts. How the hell did this trash-tier girl's cultivation literally skyrocket overnight? Historically, a single quick draw from Menta would have completely butchered her, a dozen times over. Putting his ego aside, he boldly proposed jumping her together, not out of sudden cowardice, but to perfectly share the massive glory of executing this freak anomaly. Flashing a wicked grin, Nakayasu instantly agreed to the slaughter. Shouting his intent to provide heavy cover fire, he violently unleashed the terrifying sky-rending slash. Xianhui twisted her body with impossible flexibility, but Yuno ruthlessly exploited her awkward stance, blitzing her. Her desperate block met his absolute monstrous force, blasting her backward like a cannonball. Smashing straight through solid concrete, she crashed outside in a cloud of dust. Her entire arms vibrated wildly from the insane impact, but Yuno was already airborne, wearing the most incredibly toxic, arrogant smirk. His relentless barrage forcefully disarmed her. Panic sparking, she desperately sparked her spirit object control to magnetically yank her fallen blade back. But right before the hilt smacked her palm, Yuno ruthlessly launched another vicious strike. Catching the deadly blade with her pure spiritual aura, his crushing physical pressure threatened to snap her wrist. Then, out of nowhere, a brutal flank attack slammed her. The totally blindsided ambush left her reeling. Yuno burst into maniacal laughter, praising Nakayasu's absolute ruthlessness for practically slicing her waist in half. Nakayasu just coldly barked at him to execute her immediately. Death isn't guaranteed until her head completely rolls. Xianhui lay totally wrecked and bleeding out. Swinging his blade for the ultimate decapitation, Yuno suddenly froze in absolute horror. His brain short-circuited watching this supposedly dead girl forcefully rise again, as magical energy literally stitched her ripped clothes and shattered flesh back together. His jaw completely dropped a catastrophic, body-bisecting wound, flawlessly vanished in a single heartbeat. Could a mere condensation realm weakling actually possess such a godly, mythic-tier healing art? Her spiritual aura flared again, snapping her weapon firmly into her grasp. Meanwhile, the insane boiling blood buff aggressively spiked to a massive 80%. As she stalked forward, radiating pure killing intent, Yuno subconsciously retreated a pathetic step back. Enraged by his own fear, he recklessly swung his blade. Screw her god-tier healing tricks, there was zero chance she could tank his full power slash. The literal second he cleanly decapitates her, those flashy recovery arts become completely worthless. Meeting his ultimate strike head-on, their blades violently collided, shattering the air around them. Nakayasu was sweating bullets, absolutely terrified that she tanked a fatal sky-rending slash to the spine, and was still dominating the battlefield. She blocked his heavy strike one-handed. Panic set in, she was evolving mid-battle. He needed to end this immediately. He unleashed a devastating barrage of sky-rending slashes. The shockwave was massive. Yo-Yo was caught in the crossfire. "Are you trying to kill me too?" he screamed. Nakayasu just coldly replied that the sect would honor his noble sacrifice. Screw being cannon fodder. He dodged, but she instantly grabbed him, using his body as a brutal human shield. Pure carnage. Crimson splattered everywhere. Nakayasu watched the horrific explosion tear through flesh and rubble. As the dust settled, she had vanished. Suddenly, a lethal aura spiked behind him. He swung his blade instantly. She matrix dodged the deadly arc. The moment her palm struck the dirt, her spiritual energy fully recharged. The blade of crushing momentum unlocked. He parried the strike, gritting his teeth. Okay, she was terrifyingly tanky. Still, his swordsmanship was elite. Until crack, her weapon sliced cleanly through his blade. His eyes widened in absolute shock. In a flash, he was split completely in half. System prompt. Breaking blade technique det progress. 5/2. Chen Hui snapped her head back. Slow clapping echoed as a man praised her flawless kills. He called himself her father. He smirked at her insane growth rate. Ryugasaki Shoichi. Just looking at his face made Chen Hui's blood boil. Instantly, she lunged, snarling that he disgusted her. He parried the heavy blow, instantly launching a hidden dagger right at her face. She ducked beneath the lethal steel. Smiling, he summoned a dozen hovering swords, loudly bragging about his twisted genius. He had stolen her clan's iron wall blade technique before slaughtering them all. Now, he was the sole master alive, the last user on Earth. She stared dead-eyed, noting his psychotic smile was practically ripping his face apart. He just laughed off the threat. Pure fury radiating from her, she ordered him to keep that disgusting smirk, because she was going to slice his head right across that grin, and wanted a perfectly clean cut. She blitzed forward. Swarm of floating swords intercepted her strike instantly. She unleashed a relentless flurry, but his flying blades formed an impenetrable dome. The steel whirled like a meat grinder, slashing her into a bloody mess. This auto-defense drained almost zero mana. He smugly gloated that she was way too weak to even land a scratch. Absolute zero chance, he mocked her, warning that her reckless aggression was only tearing her own body apart. Let's see how long you survive. Defying logic, she activated Breaking Blade technique and shattered his flying weapons. The opening was secured. She closed the distance in a heartbeat. Clash. He barely blocked with his main sword. System check. Breaking Blade technique dead. 5/3. He smirked. That desperate trick could only breach his defense once. He had downloaded her entire fighting style. Summoning another brutal wave of steel, he impaled her right through the defenses. She collapsed into a massive pool of crimson, totally unresponsive. Far away, a mysterious observer watched through a scrying teacup. The familiar warned the divine dragon. His newest pawn was flatlining. Zooming in, her face was literally painted in fresh blood. Through their link, she casually whispered to stop panicking over a few scratches. The familiar was absolutely losing its mind. Arterial spray was literally geysering from her fatal wounds. "You call this a little bit?" he shrieked in total disbelief. He knew she possessed the host's body, but absorbing this level of lethal damage voluntarily was absolute madness. She was definitely cooking up an insane ultimate move. Trade secret, she smirked. Back on the bloody battlefield, Shoichi froze in horror as Chen Hui rose from the dead. Catching his panic, she hissed at him to keep smiling. Furious, he vowed to turn her into actual minced meat. Ding! System alert. Boiling blood buff is now fully active. Damage output locked at 170%. Aura exploded from her blade as she launched a god-tier blitz, bypassing his defenses. He barely shifted his steel wall to block. Going for the counter, he left an opening. Slash! Her blade instantly connected with his jaw. Keeping her morbid promise, she sliced horizontally through his grin. Empowered by Breaking Blade technique, the top half of his skull launched into orbit. A gruesome fountain of crimson erupted. System notification. Breaking Blade technique debt fully cleared. Final progress stands at 5/5. She coldly watched the corpse drop. Trembling behind a ruined pillar, Shoichi's pathetic son, Ryugasaki Kaku, witnessed the brutal execution. His father's flawless iron wall was supposed to be invincible. Reality shattering around him, the coward immediately bolted for the exit. Claiming the sect leader title for himself, his genius plan was to escape, beg the main Yin sect for backup, and return to slaughter her later. He didn't care about her real identity anymore. His only philosophy right now was, live to fight another day. But karma acts fast. He instantly stepped right onto a hidden, glowing magic circle. An absolute annihilation trap. A roaring fire tornado instantly incinerated him. Chen Hui stood unfazed, watching the blazing inferno. Blood debt fully paid, family avenged. As the fiery wind howled, a mysterious figure suddenly appeared, clapping at her savage victory. A sweet 30% of the mission's cultivation XP and merit points instantly flooded into Hai's system. Qian Hui skyrocketed straight to the 9th layer of the condensation realm. Meanwhile, Hai absolutely maxed out his current stage, unlocking the advance payment option for the legendary Golden Core realm. But wait, Qian Hui noticed her magical robe stopped auto-repairing. He casually explained her spiritual energy was just running on empty. With a quick swipe, he opened the system shop, letting her advance pay for some brand new battle drip. Her eyes totally lit up with gratitude. She picked a fierce outfit with killer stats, but panicked over the massive 500,000 yuan post-payment debt. He just smirked. No sweat. Right before she roasted the Ryugasaki estate to ashes, he had totally looted their vault. Their dead legacy easily footed the bill. Suddenly, absolute zero chills ran down his spine. A terrifying, murderous aura erupted. Yin was here. She was absolutely fuming over his blatant favoritism. As his first disciple, she got zero loot. Sweating bullets. To cool her blazing wrath, he instantly unlocked her advance payment tab too. He asked what she wanted to buff. Levels, gear, or combat skills? Her savage reply, "Give me everything," the system chimed, evolving her dual feather greatsword as a glowing holographic panel materialized before her. A heavy notification dropped. She had exactly 1 week to crush her post-payment mission. If she survived and succeeded, she would secure a massive boost to her cultivation XP, epic gear, and deadly skills. To kick off this hardcore trial, she just needed to click and warp straight into a high-tier secret realm. Hai was totally stunned seeing her bolt immediately, completely ditching their crucial second mock exam. She scoffed at that basic test. School rankings meant absolutely nothing to her. Her only obsession was ultimate ascension, trampling over anything in her way. With a flash of light, she vanished into the void. Qianhui stared in pure awe at that boss energy. Hai just sighed and let her cook. Suddenly, their phones buzzed with a massive academy alert, demanding they grab their entry tickets for the looming mock exam. Their teacher crossed her arms, questioning their seriously late arrival, since every other student locked theirs down a whole week ago. Playing it cool, Hai claimed. Their brains were completely deep-fried from brutal cram sessions. He quickly pivoted, asking for the exam coordinates. She revealed a glowing, intricate, magical seal stamped on the ticket. Pushing his spiritual aura into it would instantly warp him straight to the combat zone. He marveled at this next-level magical tech. Teacher Qingyan then looked him dead in the eye, noting how he absolutely dominated the previous mock exam. He completely eclipsed the academy's supposed elites, rocketing straight up to the undisputed rank 1 of the entire school. Shrugging it off, he claimed pure luck, but her tone darkened, warning him this was a massive 10-school battle royale. The bloodbath would be insanely fierce, packed with ruthless prodigies who would shatter any rule to secure their victory. She warned him to watch his back. By dawn, Qianhui anxiously asked if they'd drop into the same arena. Hai honestly had zero clue, since the spawn points were totally randomized. He told her to stay sharp, promising to reunite with her at the ultimate finish line. With that, he activated the glowing card. Space distorted, and boom, he dropped into a massive, ancient forest. Was this the legendary secret realm, the giant wood forest? He memorized the exam syllabus, but standing right here, feeling the primal energy, these colossal trees were straight out of a nightmare. A sleek monitor drone buzzed overhead, signaling the brutal survival exam had officially begun. Deep in the deadly woods, a terrifying shadow swallowed a random student. Looming above was a ravenous, fifth-layer spirit-guiding realm. Bear Fiend, the massive beast lunged, but the student unleashed a desperate, explosive punch, blasting the monster backward. It crashed hard into the dirt. Meanwhile, miles away, another monstrous bear was getting absolutely folded into a punching bag. Delivering the beatdown was none other than number 6 middle school's third-ranked prodigy, the arrogant Li Junhao. His squad of blonde cheerleaders squealed in awe as he flexed hard, boasting these beasts were nothing but a pathetic warm-up. He was totally high on copium, convinced he only lost to Hai previously due to bad luck. He swore his raw power was exactly on par with the main character. Suddenly, a suffocating killing intent choked the air. Stepping out from the shadows was a terrifying 6th-layer condensation realm, Glass's Bear Fiend. Glaring with bloodthirsty eyes and sporting a body covered in brutal battle scars, this apex predator screamed absolute danger. It had brutally clawed its way to the top of the food chain. Its monstrous aura was genuinely paralyzing. The terrified cheerleaders scrambled behind a boulder. They hyped up their fearless leader for standing his ground against this titan, but plotting twist, his legs were literally shaking out of control. He was completely paralyzed. The traumatic PTSD from his last crushing defeat had absolutely broken him. But just as he faced death, the beast suddenly flinched and bolted away in pure terror. Junhao stood there, incredibly confused, until he saw our main character casually stroll past him. Hai's insane speed left a shockwave that nearly knocked Junhao over. His jaw dropped to the floor. Meanwhile, Hai was happily sprinting after the fleeing apex predator like it was a cute puppy. Our absolute menace of a boy was treating this deadly hunt like a walk in the park. Elsewhere, deep inside the dark woods, stood a massive hollow tree. Fresh, dark bloodstains painted the bark and surrounding debris. A brutal, life-or-death slaughter had already gone down right here. Junhao's gaze caught something hidden in the brush, instantly draining color from his face. Concealed behind the leaves laid a mountain of slaughtered fiends. Nearly 12 elite monsters rested there, every single one boasting power at the 5th and 6th layers of the condensation realm. That monster obliterated them like absolute trash. Junhao swallowed hard, realizing his utter foolishness for ever believing he stood a chance against such insane strength. A glowing mana projection suddenly materialized, flashing the live scoreboard. With Subject 2 officially initiating, all remaining challengers received immediate orders to gear up. Exactly 172 competitors remained standing. Dominating the current leaderboards, Zhang Jishi, from number 1 middle school, flexed a flawless 200 points. Hot on his heels trailed He Xin of number 6 middle school, perfectly matching that 200 score. Securing the bronze stood Yu Ping from number 8 middle school. He locked in 198 points. Meanwhile, 𝖤 from number 6 middle school secured 186 points. Snagging 5th place sat Moden from number 7 middle school with 180 points. Yuping, the undisputed top dog of number 8 middle school, scoffed. He found it hilarious how trash-tier players turned a literal tutorial mob into a death wish. After all, only the elite top 10 from every academy even qualified for this trial. To him, those losers completely disrespected their prestigious ranks. Smirking, he asked the gorgeous Chen Hui if she agreed with his elite take. Giving him the cold shoulder, she bounded into the canopy. Annoyed, he activated a seismic footwork technique, stubbornly dashing right after her fading silhouette. Having tracked her flawless performance throughout Phase 1, her overwhelming potential was undeniable. He confidently offered her an exclusive spot within his prestigious family sect. Given her insane talent, he planned to claim her as his personal disciple upon qualification. But this absolute creep had been mercilessly swiping her monster kills earlier. Now, he relentlessly stalked her every move. Her patience was instantly evaporating. Thankfully, Subject 2 officially kicked off. Countless armor-piercing bear claws lay scattered across the battlefield. The brutal objective? Hunt down and harvest 10 individual claws. Fusing them would forge an epic armor-piercing spear, massively boosting their survival odds against the terrifying boss fiend. Crouched on a branch, a mysterious competitor scoffed at the ridiculous fetch quest, noting the ultimate boss was literally chilling, right on the mountain's summit. Channeling his wind control wind-stepping technique, he soared. This arrogant prodigy was Moden, the undisputed champion of number 7 middle school. Hailed as the Mo family's once-in-a-generation prodigy, he literally surfed the gales despite not even reaching the legendary Golden Core realm yet. Convinced that crafting some pathetic spear was beneath him, he boldly charged straight toward the 10th layer, Condensation Realm's sand-rending black bear fiend. Expecting a nightmare boss, he smirked upon realizing they shared the exact same cultivation realm. Without hesitation, he unleashed his devastating wind control stone, shattering astral wind. A catastrophic tornado instantly swallowed the massive beast whole. The raging cyclone violently amplified, packing enough sheer destructive force to literally slice off the mountain's peak. Watching from afar, Yuping stood absolutely paralyzed by Moden's successful stunt. Meanwhile, Moden smirked, already tasting those sweet victory points for Subject 2. Instantly, a monstrous killing intent suffocated the air. Panicking, he retreated as the beast lunged. Absolute dread washed over his pale face. The monster was flawlessly intact. Desperate, he hastily conjured a defensive wind control wind wall, praying it held. But the titan shattered his barrier, launching him. Mid-air, a deafening shockwave violently erupted, sending his body plummeting. He violently smashed through the dense canopy, impacting the unforgiving earth with shattered bones. Coughing blood, he realized the bloodthirsty bear was already descending. Yuping mentally cursed the arrogant fool for recklessly trying to solo a boss without checking the freaking quest parameters. Now that clown had lured the nightmare right into their zone. Luckily, the massive beast stood menacingly still, seemingly lacking any desire to initiate unprovoked slaughter. Those legendary armor-piercing bear claws dropped from the boss, demanding a brutal fight to the death. These trial mechanics were pure garbage. As the towering beast flexed its lethal talons, a sudden realization hit Yuping. A handful of regular elite bear fiends also dropped the required loot. The rates were terribly low, but aggressively grinding them remained his only viable survival strategy. Another massive bear raised its heavy paws. Yuping locked onto the lethal incoming strike immediately. The beast's devastating swipe carved a massive crescent crater right through the ancient oak trunk. However, plot twist, a hyper-pressurized blast pierced directly through the monster's chest. A geyser of crimson erupted as the beast collapsed, utterly deleted by Yuping's lethal water ray technique. Frantically looting the carcass, he prayed for a drop. Not every elite mob carried the armor-piercing bear claw. Those items possessed atrocious drop rates. The grind was absolutely brutal. After massacring 12 elite monsters, he had barely scraped together a single solitary claw. Suddenly, a shadowy figure gracefully descended from the canopy, his eyes locked onto the glowing talons strapped to her waist. Shockingly, the gorgeous girl he previously pursued already secured 3 drops. Refusing to be outdone, his competitive spirit flared, instantly unleashing a devastating water gun barrage. Deep within the shadowed woods, a mysterious figure stood confidently upon a jagged cliff. Looking down, his sharp gaze instantly recognized Chen Hui's silhouette. Approaching him, she proudly announced her successful harvest of 6 armor-piercing bear claws, eagerly offering to share her stash if his inventory ran low. He offered a slight, knowing smirk, appreciating her sweet gesture, but ultimately declined her assistance. "Advanced armor-piercing spear," he commanded. Her eyes widened in absolute wonder as a breathtaking, aura-infused polearm materialized directly into his steady grip. Cutting back to the intense grind, 3 pressurized hydroblasts fired simultaneously, violently detonating against a beast's skull. Brutal chest and gut strikes dropped the beast. Yu-ping swiftly looted the remains, totally hyped to finally bag his 9th claw. Just one left. His eyes darted to the live leaderboard tracking their grind. Wang Ping secured the crown, with Zhang Jixi trailing right behind. Meanwhile, Huang Qianhui and He Xin were brutally falling behind. Yu-ping smirked, convinced that He's flex about soloing that nightmare tier. Hidden boss was pure cap. The hype was totally dead. Now, Yu-ping locked in, starving to dominate this trial. Boom! System alert. He just crafted the legendary armor-piercing spear. Yu-ping's jaw basically dropped to the floor. Back with Qianhui, she was absolutely starstruck. You could advance pay for weapons too? Her master was truly built different. He locked onto that wind user from the Mo bloodline, spotting the perfect cheat code. After checking the system, he realized this magic was open source. 0 patent strikes meant he could totally abuse the advance pay glitch. So, without hesitating, he instantly smashed that button. The system chimed, confirming his advance pay for wind control mastery. Now, the scoring mechanics for Subject 2 strictly scaled off pure damage dealt to the dungeon boss. So, our brilliant main character hatched a big brain strategy. Once he melted the boss's HP to 1%, Qianhui would dive in and secure the final blow. That way, both secure S-tier rankings. She gave the green light. Fully charged, He launched himself straight off the massive cliff. The drop was absolutely terrifying, yet his predatory gaze locked onto the bear fiend. Sensing his aura, the beast smashed its massive paws, unleashing a shockwave. He embraced the violent gale. Closing the gap, his eyes tracked every movement, as pure energy surged down to his legs. He plummeted like a falling star, glowing with blinding radiant power mid-air. The monstrous bear froze in sheer panic, and the second he touched down, a kinetic blast sent the beast flying. Our guy didn't waste a single frame, immediately slashing his spear to trigger a colossal, screen-shaking explosion. Buried in the chaos, the monster was totally blind. Ripping right through the thick smoke, the spear violently impaled the giant bear straight in its chest. It desperately blocked with its bloody paws, but He just smirked, activating the dark nether lightning art. Our absolute savage channeled pure high-voltage energy straight down the polearm, frying the colossal beast from the inside. The monster roared in agonizing shock. But the combo wasn't over. Popping wind control and wind-treading stride with his weapon deeply lodged, he bulldozed the beast backward at supersonic speeds. It was pure devastation. Watching from the sidelines, Yu-ping was fuming, incredibly salty that his glorious kill got stolen. Meanwhile, the knocked-out Mo Den slowly began to blink his eyes open. Getting one shot wasn't on his bingo card. When his vision finally cleared, he woke up to an absolute apocalyptic war zone. That terrifying boss was getting utterly bullied by a total random. Unleashing hell, He kept racking up that insane damage. Pushing for massive damage, He unleashed an absolute hurricane of spear strikes. The sheer velocity transformed him into a living tornado of destruction. Blade met flesh in a relentless flurry. He was entirely dialed in, his focus razor-sharp. The shockwave alone obliterated a massive tree trunk right behind the beast. As the timber crashed down, He finally paused his devastating combo, but the demonic bear survived by shrinking its massive frame. Yu-ping watched closely, realizing the beast traded pure defense for insane mobility. He hung back, testing if He could handle this new phase. If our boy fumbled, Yu-ping was totally ready to steal the kill. But He did not miss a beat. Despite the target shrinking, his spear effortlessly shredded the beast's forearms mid-block. The monster instantly lunged for a vicious counter, but He perfectly parried the heavy fist with his spear shaft. Its size shrank, but its raw damage output was absolutely cracked. Dense chi armor suddenly materialized over its arms, a brand new trick. He's battle IQ kicked in. He figured this armor technique was flawed, unable to cover its previously massive hitbox. Spotting that dual layer of physical and magical shielding, it all clicked. The exam warnings about this insane difficulty spike made total sense now. Survival was never guaranteed here. He swiftly dashed backward to create space, but the enraged bear instantly closed the gap. Pivoting with flawless momentum, he whipped his spear around for a devastating reverse thrust. The beast's eyes widened in sheer panic. A glowing golden barrier instantly erupted across its chest. But He went God mode, unleashing the high-tier art. Pierced throat, the blade violently shattered the monster's windpipe, sending a crimson fountain into the air. The sheer kinetic force launched the beast crashing through multiple trees. As the dust settled, He walked up to find the monster utterly pinned to the cliffside by his weapon. Micromanaging that health bar down to exactly half was stressful, but setting it up perfectly meant they were guaranteed to clear the stage the moment Qianhui landed the final blow. He yelled for her to secure the elimination, oblivious to Mo Dun slinking through the shadows. That snake wanted the loot for himself. Modun instantly chanted wind control, wind blade, before a sudden, agonizing shriek echoed through the woods. As the violent gales dispersed, Modun's jaw dropped. Total whiff. Qianhui had casually yanked the entire giant bear into the sky. Hovering above, she ruthlessly cast wind control, demon slash. In one blinding motion, the split-strike bear demon was completely erased from existence. Fusing object control and wind control flawlessly, her technique was literally unheard of. Down below, Modun was absolutely fuming that random nobodies were flexing his elemental affinity. To his twisted, elitist mindset, these commoners had zero right to wield the same elite, magical arts as the prestigious Mo bloodline. Desperate, he loudly accused Qianhui of stealing his hard-earned kill while he was resting. The audacity! He truly believed that boss's remaining health rightfully belonged to him. Qianhui immediately roasted his pathetic logic, smirking as she asked why he mysteriously passed out mid-exam. His face turned crimson with pure rage. In Mo's arrogant eyes, out of the entire roster, these two kids from number 6 high school were absolute trash tier. Zero noble backing, zero elite sect affiliations, just easy prey. Since nobody powerful had their backs, he figured he could brutally murder these two cultivation rookies right here, right now, and the proctors wouldn't even bat an eye. Qianhui stared coldly at his yapping mouth, locking onto that familiar, utterly repulsive smirk twisting his face. It gave her massive Shoichi trauma vibes. Instantly triggered, she snapped and activated the deadly execution line. She blitzed right into his personal space like a phantom, but Hei quickly shouted a warning, reminding her that catching a murder charge mid-exam was a terrible idea. Modun actually laughed, finding it hilarious that some low-born peasant thought she could touch a prodigy. He confidently erected a wind control windshield. Her blade violently crashed into the roaring tempest. Pumping pure mana into the barrier, Mo believed his supreme defense was absolutely impenetrable, but Qianhui shattered it like cheap glass. Blinking through the vortex like a literal glitch in reality, she was inside. Mo instantly knew he was completely cooked. His eyes bugged out in pure horror, stammering about her impossible speed. Qianhui just let out a bored sigh. Flourishing her blade, she delivered a brutal gut check. He plummeted from the sky like a broken meteor, violently pinballing through the branches before eating dirt. Hei strolled up, sweating, admitting she genuinely terrified him for a second. He fully expected her to slice the guy into ribbons. Thank God she only used the flat of her blade. She wasn't dumb. She knew the hidden proctors were recording everything. Catching a body during the finals was an instant disqualification. Still, mastering that execution line technique had totally paid off in style. A buzzer echoed, officially ending the chaotic mock exams. The digital leaderboards updated. Hei locked in rank 1, Qianhui taking 2nd, and Yuping claiming 3rd. Checking her inventory, Qianhui sighed, realizing she was exactly 4 armor-piercing claws short of the requirement. Hei gave her a reassuring grin, promising her it was no big deal, since he was totally ready to go farm the rest right now. Suddenly, Yuping walked over, flashing a massive, suspicious grin as he offered up his own stash of claws. Hei didn't hesitate to snatch the high-tier crafting drops. He raised an eyebrow, asking why Yuping would willingly give away such insane weapon materials. Yuping just chuckled, explaining that, with our overpowered duo totally monopolizing the scoreboards, holding onto those quest items was basically useless for his own rank. Plus, he casually flexed that his incredibly wealthy family had warehouses full of premium weapon materials anyway. Donating them to the absolute carry of the match just made sense. He then smoothly invited Hei for a private chat outside. Hei visibly cringed, quickly stepping back and clarifying he was definitely straight. Right on cue, a glowing system prompt flashed, announcing that 10 out of 10 armor-piercing bear claws were finally secured. The ultimate prerequisite for crafting the legendary armor-piercing spear was officially complete. The loot was secured. Stepping outside, they were instantly intercepted by Yuping, whose eyes gleamed like he just struck pure gold looking at these two prodigies. He launched into a full-blown pitch. College, corporate grind, becoming a mindless 9-to-5 zombie, trash. He declared that joining a powerhouse sect was the absolute endgame. Sure, elite modern factions usually ignore high schoolers, but he was handing them a literal golden ticket, a once-in-a-lifetime fast track to skip 50 years of grueling grinding. Cue the ultimate flex. He revealed himself as the young master of the body-forging sect, an absolute juggernaut ranked among the top 10 factions of the era. With his destiny sealed as the future supreme leader, he threw down a massive, exclusive invitation just for them. Hei did not even blink. He completely shattered the guy's ego by deadpan stating they already belonged to a sect, leaving Yuping completely frozen in absolute shock. The ultimate plot twist dropped. Hei casually introduced Qianhui as his direct disciple, and she proudly claimed him as her master, crushing Yuping's recruitment dreams. Feeling incredibly salty about wasting his epic motivational speech, he demanded to know the name of this supposedly superior faction. Honestly, Qianhui had the exact same question. She hyped her master up to drop the legendary name, while cold sweat absolutely drenched Hei's face. Plot twist. Our guy literally forgot to file the paperwork. Qianhui's soul straight up exited her body, while Yu Ping absolutely lost his mind laughing. The young master mocked them relentlessly before leaving. Wasting zero time, our main character marched straight into the official sect administration building. Lurking behind the security monitors was Mo Dun. He was currently rocking a pathetic neck brace and an arm cast, courtesy of his brutal beatdown. Spotting his nemesis made Mo Dun's blood boil with pure rage. Meanwhile, Hei casually strolled through the lobby, hearing randoms brag about how insanely easy registering was. He stepped up to counter number 7. The desk jockey threw him a bored look, asking for his purpose. Hei boldly declared his intent to establish a brand new faction. The clerk monotonously demanded identification. Our boy stared him dead in the eye and dropped his full name, Hei Sin. Instantly, all color drained from the worker's face. Sweating bullets, the clerk stammered, demanding a heavy-hitting recommendation letter from a top-tier guild. Strike 1. He had absolutely nothing. The frantic clerk then aggressively questioned if he had shattered the mortal limits and reached the mythical golden core stage. He confidently smirked, claiming he was literally inches away from the breakthrough, but the corrupt official instantly slapped a massive rejection label on that answer. Strike 2. Finally, the desk jockey demanded an official boss challenge certificate. Our main character just blinked, completely clueless about what that even meant. The sweaty official sneered, explaining the brutal rules. He had to dive into a deadly designated dungeon as an acting leader and survive the ultimate trial. Only then could he claim the holy grail of administration tokens. But Hei fired back with flawless logic, demanding they approve his faction first. Because how else could he enter as a boss without actually being one? But the corrupt clerk doubled down, putting up an unbreakable wall of pure arrogance. Refusing to budge, he insisted the death game came first before any paperwork. Murderous intent flashed in Hei's eyes. Though the official played tough, underneath the desk, his knees were shaking violently. He let out a massive breath when Hei finally stormed off, genuinely terrified the monster was about to massacre the entire room. Can you blame him? Facing a peak stage 10 aura beast was literal nightmare fuel. Out of nowhere, a super arrogant voice echoed from the shadows, mocking the clerk for fearing absolute street trash. Stepping into the light was the mastermind himself, his badly battered cousin, Mo Dun. The bruised loser coped hard, claiming peak stage power meant absolutely nothing, loudly bragging about his so-called victory during their previous high school clash. The desk worker internally called cap on that lie. Glancing at his boss, wrapped up like a broken mummy, practically screamed, who actually got absolutely destroyed. But wanting to keep his job, he heavily kissed up to his bruised relative. The corrupt worker then smirked, bragging that the first 2 impossible walls were already checkmate. He revealed the dirty trick. Normally, rookies get a temporary free pass to actually enter the dungeon and prove themselves. They survive, return, and get the official golden stamp. But this toxic duo had totally rigged the entire system just to screw our main character over. It was a flawless trap, a literal dead end preventing his rise to power. Mo Dun smiled wickedly, thrilled that he completely blindsided his greatest enemy. This entire bureaucratic fortress belonged to his elite bloodline. Since Hei dared to humiliate him, the bruised villain vowed to drag his future down into an eternal abyss. Cut to that night. Pacing his room, our hero interrogated Qianhui about the exact cheat code needed to shatter his limits and ascend to the legendary golden core. Her answer was simple. First, max out his current stage to peak level 10. Check. He was already an absolute unit. Second, he desperately needed 2 ultra-rare, mythical-grade drops, the Inferno Spore and the Frost Skeleton Weed. Obtaining them meant diving headfirst into an S-rank danger zone. Flipping open his laptop, he aggressively hunted for a dungeon that doubled as a boss trial, while hoarding those exact legendary materials, aiming to absolutely speedrun both quests. Bingo. He locked onto a brutal Pioneer tier raid, guaranteed to drop the exact fire and ice elemental treasures he needed. But there was a massive catch. The portal was locked down by a rival faction. Infiltrating meant teaming up with their active raid squad. Squinting at the forums, Qianhui read the insane entry barriers. The squad desperately required a certified boss, who possessed the official golden token. Cut to the squad, absolutely rotting from boredom at the dungeon gate, until a mysterious shadow finally approached. Enter our overpowered high schooler, Zhao Qihong, the fiery female vanguard, practically choked. She aggressively questioned why their supreme commander recruited a literal kid, exuding zero veteran aura. Yu Bing, the icy vice commander, simply watched like a hawk. Crossing their arms, They demanded to know if this rookie actually checked the raid specs. With ice in his veins, our boy just gave a deadly nod. Flexing their authority, they flashed a glimmering S-tier pioneer badge, the ultimate VIP pass required. Judging by his school uniform, they totally bet their lives he was an imposter. But flashing a devilish smirk, Hay casually dropped the bomb that he was holding one. They thought he was totally bluffing. I mean, a high schooler scoring a sect leader token? Absolutely zero chance. But our boy just smirked. He whipped out the official sect badge, practically gleaming and fresh off the press. Jen's jaw practically hit the floor. Recovering quickly, he stepped up to forge their path, slicing a massive rift straight through the solid click. As the cavern groaned open, they charged right in. MC instantly clocked the illusion. This hidden gateway required a highly specific chant to unlock. These sacred realms are top-tier sect resources. You really think they'd let just any random newbie waltz inside? MC asked if a teen starting a sect was really that wild. Jen sighed, saying it's insanely rare now. Back in the day, approval was a total breeze. As long as you hit the condensation realm. Take the Ying sect, for example. Their grand leader, Rugasaki Sho, was barely a condensation realm rookie when he applied, and they rubber-stamped it. But today, the cultivation rat race is absolutely brutal. They skyrocketed the entry requirements. Now, as a rule, if you aren't rocking a golden core realm cultivation base, you're getting rejected. Unless you somehow flex a glowing recommendation letter from a heavyweight major sect. That is the ultimate VIP loophole. But let's be real. What average high school kid is walking around with golden core powers? Jen instantly assumed our MC pulled some massive strings to score that elite major sect recommendation, assuming he had some terrifying heavy hitter backing him up. But our MC? He just chuckled. Chi Hong suddenly snapped them back to reality. They needed to hard carry her through this sect leader trial. Jen confidently swore he'd secure her victory. Bing smirked, bragging that with two absolute beasts guarding her, she was perfectly safe. MC finally connected the dots. This was a classic two-man carry job. It all clicked. This chaotic ruin only required a 3-player squad, yet they desperately insisted on dragging a 4th member along. They were totally using him as their backup cannon fodder, but MC didn't care. He checked his system. First mission, advance paying the sect leader token. His golden core recommendation letter and the impermanence ruin fiend king core, both were glaringly stuck at 1/0. Mission 2 was his golden core realm advance payment. He already hit layer 1/10 of the condensation realm, but his blazing flame mushroom and chillbone herb stats were stuck at 1/0. The final quest? Advance paying his wind control skill. His comprehended mantra sat at 1/0, with wind control practice at 10/3. Suddenly, the system chimed with a massive update. The golden core realm was successfully advance paid. This meant he could finally dump those tedious post-payment quests right onto his disciple's plate. Timing was flawless. Chen Hui desperately needed to finish her wind control training anyway. He instantly delegated the grind to her. Meanwhile, Chi Hong shot Jen a sneaky look, questioning the random outsider's actual power level. Jen scoffed, writing our MC off as a clueless rich kid. Smirking, Jen seamlessly shifted to their private intersect telepathy. He swore the new guy was just pure cannon fodder, a meat shield who wouldn't disrupt their scheme. Soon, they hit a dead end with 3 dark tunnels. Chi Hong frowned. Why did Bing look completely lost? Wasn't this veteran supposed to have fully cleared this terrifying ruin before? Bing nervously explained the trap. It's called impermanence ruin because the entire map completely shifts every single time. Pure, unpredictable chaos. If it didn't mutate, it wouldn't be worthy of a sect leader trial. He sharply reminded her that if this dungeon was a total joke, she wouldn't need 2 elite sect leaders babysitting her. Instantly, Jen flared his divine sense, probing the darkness to uncover the hidden dangers lurking down those 3 mysterious paths. Jen flashed a fake smile. He claimed he scouted ahead, generously gifting MC the middle path, swearing it was an absolute breeze. Playing the hero, Jen acted like they were sacrificing themselves for the newbie. Unbothered, our MC just shrugged and strolled right into the middle tunnel. But this was their venomous trap all along. Once MC vanished, they burst out laughing, mocking his gullibility. Their filthy scam always thrived on naive rookies. The treacherous trio ducked into a much safer route. Walking down, Chi Hong whispered, wondering just how much of a nightmare MC's path actually was compared to theirs. Jen's smirk grew sinister. The difference was literal heaven and hell. His divine sense had picked up a swarm of terrifying, unknown auras flooding that exact middle path, meaning that tunnel wasn't just packed with ultra-lethal fiends. It was an absolute, bloodthirsty monster nest. Jen scoffed, fully convinced the kid bought his sect leader token with pure nepotism money. And to make matters worse, they clocked him as a pampered rookie with 0 actual combat experience. They happily pictured him completely paralyzed by fear in a real dungeon, figuring he was crying in terror. Meanwhile, our MC just calmly strolled deeper, until he suddenly sensed pure danger. A lethal arrow ripped through the darkness. Without blinking, he casually swatted it away like a fly, instantly locking onto the sniper's hidden location. Channeling his energy, he unleashed the wind control sky-breaking palm. The shockwave obliterated the cavern walls, exposing a grotesque, nightmare-fuel fiend hiding in the rubble. The beast was brutally cleaved in half. It was a Shadow Stalker archer, sitting right at the 5th layer of the condensation realm, instantly deleted from existence. MC raised an eyebrow, actually impressed by a monster possessing pure invisibility skills. That sneak attack almost grazed him. Thank the heavens he had already triggered his Golden Core Realm advanced payment system. His demonic aura radar was off the charts now. Suddenly, his senses spiked again. Another deadly arrow screamed through the air. He unleashed a devastating strike toward the ambush. The sheer gale force instantly severed the monster in half. Dead silence fell. Suddenly, danger spiked near Hai's feet. A shadow assassin erupted from the earth, slashing at his calves. But he parried it effortlessly. Did this trash really think its point-blank sneak attack would bypass his senses? He plunged his spear forward, pinning the beast down. With one brutal sweep, he shredded the creature into absolute confetti. Sensing killing intent ahead, he thrust his weapon. Hitting empty air, he immediately swept the blade in a wide arc. Spinning like a lethal top, he transformed into a blender of death. The rotating spear violently crashed into the ambushers, decapitated instantly. The overwhelming momentum didn't stop there, grinding their remains into microscopic dust. The wind scattered their ashes, incoming projectiles from his blind spot. Hai instinctively twirled his shaft, swatting the arrows away. His patience was running on fumes. These cowards just kept respawning, hiding in the shadows like absolute rats. Enough was enough. He slammed his power into the earth, fracturing the ground and summoning a ferocious mini-cyclone. The vortex engulfed the battlefield. However, the shadow creeps braced themselves. Despite the terrifying visual of the raging storm, it dealt zero physical damage. They smirked, underestimating our main character. But that was a fatal mistake. Hai just wanted visual confirmation. Panic set in as he teleported right behind them. They panic-fired their bows, but Hai was already launching his counter. Manifesting a massive aura hand, he squashed the sniper like a bug. Hidden reinforcements behind the ruins fired a volley. His spear danced, effortlessly deflecting the barrage. But far away from this bloodbath, hidden eyes were recording his every move. A creepy paper doll served as a surveillance drone for Jen. Meanwhile, Chi-Hong scoffed, asking if their bait survived. Their vile scheme was to use our boy as a meat shield. He was supposed to map out the enemy types and attack patterns. This would give them the tactical edge. Shockingly, the kid was basically speedrunning the zone. Chi-Hong immediately alerted Bing to pivot. Bypassing the boss fight entirely, they hatched a darker plot. They would drag the terrifying Fiend King straight to our hero. Bing manifested his heavy battle axe and hurled it into the darkness. A direct hit. The unseen monstrosity erupted in furious flames. From its hollowed core, the deafening roar and chaotic shockwaves instantly put Hai on high alert. Our main character totally sensed their manipulation. Undeterred, Hai continued his slaughter, slicing through the concealed monsters with ruthless efficiency. Taking a microsecond to catch his breath, a chilling sensation hit him. A fresh, bleeding graze marked his throat. He instantly backstepped. His evasion was so blindingly fast that crimson beads hung frozen in midair where he just stood. Total stealth. It bypassed his legendary perception until the impact. He instantly knew this wasn't your average low-level mob. A millisecond slower, and he would have been decapitated. Reacting purely on instinct, he swept his spear in a massive, spinning arc, manifesting an absolute defense barrier. The earth trembled as the monster breached. He tracked it, but its speed was glitch-like. Boom! A titanic stone limb exploded from the dirt, trying to snatch the dodging creature. Blue lightning violently arced across the rock. Simultaneously, the beast flanked him. It rained frantic slashes upon the energy shield. The ear-splitting metal shrieks were absolute torture, pushing his limits. Our hero countered by detonating his dark nether lightning. A chain reaction of devastating blasts wiped the zone, yet the phantom dodged every single spark. Even his ultimate lightning missed. This was undoubtedly the fastest boss he had ever faced. The creature calculated that the aura dome was impenetrable. Basic strikes were useless. If breaching the exterior was mathematically impossible, it would infiltrate the core. Engaging active camo, it dissolved into nothingness. Hai sensed the sudden void in killing intent, just as a fatal dagger shot up from beneath his own shield. Our boy was completely wide open to the ambush. The assassination strike cleaved right through his center, a textbook one-shot. The shadow assassin mentally celebrated its flawless execution. The shield's sole blind spot was the ground itself. But abruptly, the killer's momentum completely paralyzed. Hai's bisected form crumbled into a solid stone decoy. Panic hit the beast. It had just been violently outplayed. It desperately plunged back underground, but a lethal counterswing nearly claimed its head. The monster aggressively aborted the mission. The assassin finally grasped the 5D chess move. intentionally left the floor exposed as absolute bait. However, brawling inside a tiny dome against a polearm was pure suicide. Yet, spoiler alert, wasn't relying on his weapon anymore. He fully triggered the 10,000 refined steel and stone skin arts. The monster actually scoffed, daring him to keep the cage locked. It blitzed him relentlessly until a reinforced hand firmly locked onto its wrist. It launched a desperate hook, but he tanked it with 0 damage. Stepping into the pocket, he exploded forward, ignoring the frantic slashes until the beast fumbled its blade. Seeing the ultimate opening, he cocked his fist, but the coward blinked away. Smirking, he trash-talked the shadows. He even boldly asked if the rat wanted the cage removed. The shadowy fiend lurked behind him, plotting an escape. Internally, it cursed ruthlessly picturing shredding him into absolute ribbons. Yet, it wasn't foolish enough to bite the bait. The beast stayed concealed, perfectly aware it completely lacked the winning edge. Its wind arts failed, eclipsed by Hai's flawless stealth mastery. Since the monster cowered away, Hai condensed pure, volatile energy. The demon gasped. Detonating such raw power inside this claustrophobic cavern was utter insanity. It was practically suicide. Undeterred, Hai dropped the glowing sphere, unleashing a devastating, earth-shattering blast. The monster's left arm and right foot vanished. Despite channeling all its dark aura into defense, the creature was left horribly mutilated. Anticipating Hai was equally battered. The fiend prepared to slink back into the shadows, but horror struck. Its camouflage abilities were completely nullified. Hai yanked its hair back. "No running," he smirked. "Our game just started." The creature gaped at Hai's pristine condition. Our main character then channeled blazing aura right into his knuckles. During the blast, Hai flawlessly deployed his stone shield art, though he did take some initial damage. His flesh rapidly regenerated the Dragon King's lingering blessing. Meanwhile, the demon practically short-circuited trying to grasp Hai's flawless recovery. Still gripping its hair, Hai was suddenly ambushed by a golden core blazing mushroom monstrosity. It spewed an apocalyptic torrent of flames, reducing absolutely everything to crisp ash. Smoke billowed off the molten earth as the inferno died down. Miraculously, Hai blinked out of existence, instantly recognizing this new nightmare. This fiery tyrant ruled a far deadlier zone. He racked his brain, wondering why it breached this sector. Suddenly, his survival instincts flared. A lethal glacial strike rocketed toward him, but he phantom stepped away just in time. A split-second delay would have left him eternally entombed in ice. Hai whipped around, tracking the frosty projectile's origin path. The situation had catastrophically escalated. The apex frost demon from Sector 3 had crashed the party too. Seeking answers, Hai expanded his divine domain. His spiritual radar swept through the twisting catacombs. Bingo! He detected multiple auras lurking behind the stonework. Those absolute cowards were secretly manipulating the entire battlefield. He exploded forward, sprinting straight toward the frost tyrant. Meanwhile, the mutilated first beast slowly regenerated. Spotting the human's suicidal charge, the ice fiend launched a freezing barrage. Hai flawlessly evaded at the absolute last microsecond. The shadow demon watched, absolutely paralyzed by the stunt. The glacial blast soared past, violently colliding with the fire monster. Flash frozen instantly, the shadow creature finally grasped Hai's terrifying genius, weaponizing absolute zero against blistering inferno. The blazing giant roared furiously, erupting in magma to violently shatter its icy prison. A devastating solar beam blasted outward, scorching a path straight toward the frost beast. As the smoke parted, the two elemental titans angrily locked eyes. The shadow dweller mentally blasted them for being absolute morons. In that fleeting second of rage, both titans dropped their defenses. Hai struck with lightning-fast precision. With all eyes locked on him, he flashed his middle finger, mocking their very existence. Enraged, the dual titans rushed him. They launched an apocalyptic storm of ice and magma, while our hero sprinted for his life. Deep down the corridor, the thunderous clashes echoed louder. Jen instantly decoded the chaotic situation unfolding ahead. Hai was dragging every single apex predator straight toward their hideout. It was an absolute slap in the face, completely mocking their evasion skills. But Jen remembered the insane reality. Hai had tanked 3 boss-level threats, and was now flawlessly executing a deadly aggro swap. Jen never imagined a silver spoon brat like Hai wielded genuine, battle-hardened mastery. Panicking, the group bolted toward the realm's exit point. If this backfired, they planned to completely abandon ship. But mid-stride, the rocky floor beneath their boots pulsed with blinding energy. They froze in absolute horror. A hidden array violently erupted. 2 managed to manifest energy barriers, but Chi-hong was agonizingly slow. The blast completely obliterated her right arm and left leg. She shrieked for Jen, begging for a healing spell. Instead, he coldly turned his back, leaving her to die. The horrific reality finally set in. They were entirely sealed within the kill zone. Jen furiously screamed, demanding when this trap was planted. Right while you frauds played the absolute saints, Hai's voice echoed chillingly. Jen froze completely. Hai swaggered into the glowing array, locking eyes with them. Did you idiots actually believe my trust was free? Unbridled fury contorted Jen's face. Jen lashed out, detonating a blinding escape flare. Hai merely smirked. Who said my vengeance was finished? Hai's silhouette flickered into nothingness, burning his own life force to trigger supreme stealth. Jen's pupils dilated as our hero dissolved into shadows, right as a massive meteor hurled toward his face. The Fire Titan had breached the perimeter, hunting for blood. Jen stood completely paralyzed by overwhelming despair. Standing before him was an absolutely enraged magma beast. The tyrant flooded the entire chamber with hellfire. A lone figure bolted. Shen! Ji-hong screamed for salvation, paralyzed as the blazing inferno ruthlessly devoured her alive, ripping a harrowing shriek from her lungs. Shen kept scrambling backward until the ice boss locked its deadly gaze on him. Sensing the killing intent, he instantly materialized a radiant light shield, desperately blocking catastrophic strikes from every single direction. He was soloing two colossal bosses at once. Panicking, he barked at Bing to stop freezing and back him up. Bing just shuddered violently. Shen stared in pure shock as his ally stumbled forward, coughing up fountains of dark blood. The grim truth dropped. Bing got entirely blindsided. Despite his elite cultivation tier, he never felt a single thing approaching. A brutal blade impaled his spine and ripped back out. Our main character stood tall right there, gripping the bloody spear. Shen's jaw hit the floor as Hai vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, the shadow assassin fiend lurked silently on the sidelines. Absolute stealth was its ultimate, lifelong mastery. Yet, Hai had flawlessly copied the god-tier move with just one single glance. That terrifying fact made the monster sweat, rapidly calculating its zero survival odds against a literal cheat code like him. The domain was a total death trap. Enter only. The shadow demon froze, debating if stepping inside meant instant suicide. The fire boss unleashed absolute hellfire while Shen scrambled like a terrified rat to survive. Simultaneously, the ice boss blasted massive frost orbs, detonating frozen shockwaves directly across Shen's escape route. Falling back, he tasted absolute despair. A colossal tsunami of flames roared toward his face. He instantly triggered his ultimate light flame, projecting a desperate barrier against the apocalyptic inferno. The shadow demon spectated as a catastrophic, ear-shattering explosion rocked the entire zone. The domain completely shattered. It was Shen's big brain play all along, weaponizing the boss's raw firepower to obliterate the cage. He shrieked at Hai, vowing that wherever he was hiding, he would officially forfeit his life and miss the college entrance exams entirely. He barked a lethal threat. Once he rallied his sect's elite heavyweights, Hai's entire faction would be mercilessly erased from existence. Suddenly, crimson sprayed like a fountain from Shen's throat. The stealth demon had struck lethally. Shen glared in sheer horror, screaming to know why a monster would ever back a human cultivator. The fiend whispered chillingly, it honestly had no clue. Shen bled out instantly. Then, the assassin monster sensed the fire boss charging straight in. It locked eyes with the threat. Panicking, the Fire Titan unleashed a chaotic storm of blazing fury across the battlefield. But in one blinding flash, the shadow demon cleaved it cleanly in two. A millisecond later, lethal frost strikes whizzed toward its head. It effortlessly glided past the explosion, carving the ice boss into absolute ribbons. The behemoth shattered into a million frozen shards. Out of nowhere, the lethal assassin dropped to one knee. It begged to join Hai's faction, pledging absolute eternal loyalty to him. Our main character smirked in amusement. Stepping out of the shadows, he questioned this sudden betrayal. The demon confessed that without that blazing mushroom, Hai would have effortlessly deleted her earlier. It instinctively sensed his aura was terrifyingly vastly superior to any ordinary human cultivator. The ultimate proof? Hai instantly hijacked its legendary shadow-walking ability with one single, casual, glance. He wielded it with monstrous perfection. Out of every single sect, leader, challenger in history, Hai was hands down the youngest, boasting the most astronomical potential it had ever witnessed. Plus, it always utterly despised those two brain-dead mushroom beasts anyway, so it offered up massive loot to prove its devotion. It handed over the premium boss cores, alongside a heavy stack of blazing flame mushrooms, and ultra-rare chillbone herbs. Hai deadpanned perfectly, noting that offering up someone else's loot was a pretty weak flex. If it truly wanted to swear eternal fealty, it needed to rip out its own personal core. That savage demand cornered the monster entirely. Behind it, Hai silently readied his lethal blade. The beast's claws shook violently. With a brutal crunch, it smashed its own chest, yanking out its pulsing core for high. The system flashed his active quest progression. Advanced pay rewards unlocked. Sect Leader Token. Golden Core Realm sat perfectly at 1 out of 1. Major Sect Recommendation Letter. 0 out of 1. Plus, Impermanence Ruin Fiend, King Core. 1 out of 1. For the next tier advance pay. Golden Core Realm. Forda. Look. Hit 1 out of 1. 10th Layer Condensation Realm. 1 out of 1. Blazing Flame Mushroom. 1 out of 1. Chillbone Herb acquired. Finally, for Wind Control advance pay, he maxed out Comprehend Mantra, alongside 10 out of 10 for Practice Wind Control. The very next morning, the doorbell buzzed. Hai cracked it open to find Qianhui standing right there. Fresh off her morning run, she thoughtfully dropped off some breakfast. Hai had literally already handed her a spare key, meaning she could have just walked in, but she purposely chose to knock politely. After all, boys do weird things alone in their rooms. Hai sweated bullets at her terrifyingly sharp instincts, quickly stammering that he was definitely innocent. But Qianhui narrowed her eyes, insisting the vibe felt totally off. Our main character desperately doubled down, swearing nothing sus happened inside. Still, Qianhui heavily frowned. She declared the room's energy felt ridiculously suspicious anyway. She whipped around and snatched the empty air, her fingers locking around a cold arm. Qianhui's instincts screamed. A demon was lurking in the shadows. The stealth fiend dropped its invisibility cloak with a sheepish grin. It confessed it just wanted to tap her shoulder for a quick jump scare. Sure, it hadn't completely masked its dark aura or maxed out its stealth tech, but for her to catch it red-handed, that proved she had some serious skills. The fiend respectfully called her senior sister, making all the pieces click in Qianhui's mind. He actually took a literal demon as his disciple. She let out a heavy sigh, roasting his absolute desperation for recruits. Well, whatever. She announced she desperately needed a bath. But the second she hit the showers, a heavy knock echoed from the front door. It was Yu Ping. Our main character raised an eyebrow at the surprise visit, quickly throwing a frantic hand signal to the stealth fiend. He ordered it to cloak up and vanish. The guy outside was a high-level cultivator, and He barely knew his actual intentions. Who knew how Yu Ping would flip out if he spotted a demon chilling inside? But then, doing the absolute most, the fiend snuck straight into the occupied bathroom. He smoothly opened the front door, welcoming Yu Ping and asking what was up. Yu Ping casually dropped a prestigious sect recommendation letter into his hands. Our main character was absolutely hyped, wondering how his bro even knew. Yu Ping smirked, explaining he heard He was still running solo, so he pulled some massive strings back at his family estate. He practically demanded this VIP letter from his elders. If he couldn't lock He down for his own faction, he might as well secure a legendary favor now. Networking is always best done early, right? But then, a casual flex from He made Yu Ping freeze. Past tense? He narrowed his eyes, asking if He had already crushed the entry trials and challenged the sect leaders. Our main character just casually nodded. Yu Ping's eyes practically sparkled with hype. He showered He with praise, always knowing his bro was built different. But this level of dominance was just insane. With his mission accomplished, Yu Ping tipped an imaginary hat and announced his exit. He told He to hit his line anytime he needed backup. Stepping into his slick green ride, Yu Ping sped off into the neon streets. Glancing at the rearview mirror, his driver noted the deep respect. Yu Ping just smirked. He's potential was literally limitless. The driver wondered if it was the zero-to-hero underdog story hitting the legendary True Condensation realm so young, without a single penny to his name. He admitted it was a massive flex, reaching that godly tier without swimming in endless resources from some massive elite clan. But honestly, the city was crawling with prodigies. Plenty of other genius-level cultivators sat comfortably in the True Condensation realm, backed by mountains of family wealth. Those arrogant scholar tyrants were definitely the old man's absolute favorites. Yu Ping's tone turned ice cold. He respected his father's game, but he played by his own rules. Then, he shot the driver a deadly glare, reminding him who signed his checks. And if he dared call his father old man again, he could pack his bags. The driver froze in terror, spitting out frantic apologies. He swore to watch his mouth. As the luxury car cruised down the highway, Yu Ping's mind raced, obsessing over the True Condensation realm. Judging by that terrifying aura leaking from He earlier, the guy had definitely already smashed right into the Golden Core realm. Meanwhile, He breezed through the digital registration terminal, officially flashing his Golden Core status. The system instantly unlocked VIP access to god-tier martial techniques and lethal equipment, fully customized to his deadly fighting style. This was an absolute win. He had been cooking up a master plan for ages. Suddenly, reality hit him like a truck. Those two had been locked in the bathroom for way too long. He couldn't help but sweat, wondering what kind of chaos was unfolding inside. Meanwhile, the stealth fiend was grinning, thrilled the annoying guest had finally bounced. It creepily peeled back the shower curtain, a wicked smirk stretching across its demonic face. Qianhui jumped out of her skin, screaming at the freak to back off. The fiend purred that it just wanted a quick sparring match, invading her personal space until they dangerously close. It teased her for acting shy now, considering how aggressively she grabbed it earlier. Qianhui's absolute fury ignited. Roaring at the creep to step back, she unleashed a devastating blast, sending the demon flying. The shockwave rocked the entire building, leaving neighbors panicking over a suspected gas explosion. Hay stood perfectly still in the smoking rubble. He deadpanned that their little roughhousing session was so intense, they practically nuked his apartment. Flexing his system, he instantly prepaid the landlord's massive repair bill, slapping the two troublemakers with a mandatory debt-clearing mission. Since he was literally holding the fiend's life force demon core hostage, this tedious side quest was the perfect punishment/training exercise. The glowing penalty quest notification instantly pinged the fiend's system. It threw a massive tantrum, whining that it didn't sign up just to play janitor for boring chores. Hay smirked, promising premium loot drops and maybe even returning its precious demon core if it behaved. Trapped by the deal, the fiend gritted its teeth and accepted. Qianhui immediately objected, arguing she should take the blame quest. After all, her explosive spell was the one that totally vaporized the bathroom. Hay raised a hand, stopping her. She had a much deadlier mission awaiting. He had just pre-unlocked the legendary blood-boiling curse, Mark. He ordered her to master it immediately. Her eyes widened at the familiar name. It perfectly matched her cursed dagger. Hay began to explain. He revealed that the blood-boiling buff was now permanently fused with her cursed mark. Moving forward, she could completely ditch that clunky dagger in combat. Inspecting the glowing seal on her skin, she wondered out loud if Yin was dragging her feet on her weapon upgrade quest. He simply smirked, revealing he had secretly dumped extra side quests onto her plate. Qianhui totally called him out for bullying Yin. Meanwhile, under the moonlight, retired homeroom teacher Old Tao was getting his reps in. Man was living his best retired life. Sure, his pension was mid, but his early career hustle left his bank account looking thick, so being a grumpy grandpa was honestly a massive vibe. Best part? Zero demonic beasts trying to rip his face off anymore. Bro totally jinxed it. The sky violently tore open, spitting out a nightmare fuel monster that caught him lacking completely. Jaws of death halted barely a millimeter from his nose. Time froze. Then, a chillingly calm voice sliced the silence. You are blocking the spawn point. Move. Out of nowhere, Yin absolutely drop-kicked the beast into the stratosphere. The monstrosity crash-landed onto a distant mountain peak. Old Tao's jaw dropped. Even without reading its exact power level, he knew this raid boss completely outclassed that pathetic mushroom fiend from the mock exams. And Yin just obliterated it with a single casual strike. His mind reeled. Did this girl actually unlock a legendary breakthrough in just a handful of months? Recognizing his former student, Old Tao showered her with gratitude, but she just stared back, completely clueless. Chuckling awkwardly, he dropped the lore that he was her old homeroom instructor, now living that early retirement dream. It instantly clicked. This was the corrupt boomer who gladly pocketed her bribe money for academy admission. She brushed off his thanks like dust. Honestly, surviving this chaotic world long enough to retire was already an insane flex on its own. Making his way back, her words echoed endlessly in his head. Suddenly, a wild epiphany struck him out of nowhere. If he had actually refunded all that dirty bribe money, maybe his karma wouldn't be in the gutter right now. Motivated by pure panic, he swore to refund every single penny tomorrow. But suddenly, his instincts screamed, the vibe was totally off. The chemistry instructor was locked in for night patrol duty, yet her spiritual aura was completely wiped from the radar. Even worse, the suffocating, metallic stench of fresh blood lingering around. Crunching footsteps shattered the silence. Two cloaked figures bled out from the darkness. Old Tao demanded to know their class roster. Curfew was long gone. He grilled them on why they were creeping around the academy's sketchiest back alleys at midnight. The strangers coldly mocked his assumption. Old Tao's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Crimson stains dripped heavily from the bottom of their sinister cloaks. These assassins had just slaughtered the chemistry teacher, and they were making their escape. Sweating bullets, Old Tao played the fool. He nervously chuckled, blaming his boomer memory for forgetting he was retired, claiming old habits die hard. He bolted instantly, his heart hammered like a war drum. The threat level was catastrophic. Usually, his radar could accurately gauge any opponent's power level, but these two? Pure, terrifying emptiness. Suddenly, a booming voice commanded him to freeze. Yeah, right. He slammed on the gas, triggering his divine god walking art. Plumes of smoke exploded from his heels. In a flash, he gapped them by hundreds of meters. Reaching safety, he desperately grabbed his phone to dial emergency services. But reality glitched. The cloaked reapers teleported right beside him. One casually sneered, shocked that a midnight jogging geezer was actually an awakened cultivator. Pure terror gripped Old Tao's soul. His ultimate speed technique was absolute child's play to these monsters. A lethal crimson laser blasted from the villain's pupil, piercing right through Old Tao's chest. His smartphone tumbled from his lifeless grip. The second phantom materialized, harshly scolding his partner for the flashy execution. He literally ordered him to stay under the radar, yet he pulled this noisy stunt. If this grand master plan tanked, he ruthlessly promised he wouldn't beg the king for mercy. The killer scoffed, defending that he nerfed the death ray's output to the absolute minimum to avoid waking the local citizens. His partner rolled his eyes, admitting he had already plastered high-tier silencing runes across the perimeter anyway. The entire block was completely muted. He barked at him to scrub the crime scene spotless so they could vanish. Fading into the night, they reappeared on a jagged cliffside, their predatory gaze locked onto their upcoming target zone. Adrenaline surged through the cultist's veins. This operation was his ultimate golden ticket to legendary status. Sunrise hit, and main character He-Shin strolled onto campus. Since his entire squad was grinding their grueling debt repayment quests, he was flying solo to secure his exam pass. Suddenly, an absurdly expensive ride smoothly pulled up right beside him. Curiosity piqued as the engine purred to a halt. The tinted window dropped, and a snooty voice demanded if he was He-Shin. Nodding, our guy hit him with a blunt, "Who are you?" The driver stepped out, furiously barking at his disrespect toward the almighty 100 Refinement sect leader. He-Shin just blinked, his face completely blank. Bro literally had zero clue who these clowns even were. The sect leader ordered his driver to stand down. Hei had transferred from normal high school into the elite cultivation class, so his total ignorance made perfect sense. Cutting to the chase, the boss handed our main character a recommendation letter. This ticket bypassed the brutal spring exams entirely, granting guaranteed VIP admission into a top-tier cultivation university. Hei thought his trash luck had finally flipped. It literally felt like a massive jackpot dropped from the heavens, landing right in his lap. But scanning the paper, he realized it wasn't for the legendary Tsinghua or Peking universities. The driver instantly snapped, calling him an ungrateful punk. He barked that millions would literally kill for a guaranteed spot, yet Hei dared to act picky. The sect leader coldly intervened, clarifying that while it wasn't the absolute pinnacle academies, this academy still comfortably ranked among the top 100 elite cultivation schools in the nation. He sternly warned that the cultivator's spring recruitment was nothing like the basic entrance exams for mere mortals. Normal kids just sweated over test papers, where bad grades wouldn't literally end their lives. But for awakened cultivators, a single slip-up during the trial meant instant, gruesome death. Yet, Hei's eyes burned with determination to face it. He aimed straight for the top 10, radiating absolute confidence he would crush the competition without breaking a sweat. Before he could even finish flexing, the luxury car roared away. Hei scoffed, muttering the old man had zero manners. Inside the speeding vehicle, the driver complained about arrogant brats, refusing logic. Then, he cautiously asked his boss if he actually feared Hei might threaten their young master's rankings. He noted the young master had an off day, and only snatched second place during the mocks. The sect leader's gaze turned murderous, stating he never forgave pure disrespect. He chillingly ordered his loyal driver, ensure Hei never reaches that exam field alive. Meanwhile, back home, the trio chilled on the couch. Our main character declared they only had 1 week until the brutal spring trials, meaning they desperately needed a massive power-up. Whether it was hidden martial arts they craved, or profound mental barriers they just couldn't shatter completely on their own, he ordered them to write everything down. He promised to push their limits to the absolute max. The duo vanished instantly. Seconds later, they slammed a massive stack of papers right on the table, detailing every god-tier skill they desired. It was absolutely insane, but it totally proved just how fiercely dedicated and hungry for power they were. Hei just chuckled warmly. Suddenly, a ghostly hand clutching more papers materialized. The stealth fiend uncloaked from the shadows. It dramatically declared that monsters could be top-tier students too, vibrating with ambition, as it submitted its own insane training list. Chen Hui glared at its bouncing, ridiculous assets. Both girls instantly radiated pure annoyance, knowing this demon was shamelessly trying to distract him. Yin secretly swore to permanently eliminate this thought demon later. As the grueling training days melted away, the squad grinded relentlessly to evolve their cores. Meanwhile, near a jagged cliff, sketchy figures buried cursed talismans underground. They wove dark arrays to block all spiritual radar. These deadly traps were perfectly camouflaged from mortal eyes. Operating with lethal precision, they left zero traces behind. Suddenly, a lackey remembered the spring exam's classified battleground just leaked online. He nervously asked his boss how he perfectly predicted this desolate wasteland would become the arena next week. The leader smirked coldly. Humanity's greed always leaks secrets. With the lethal array fully prepped, the cloaked assassin requested an urgent leave. When questioned, he casually revealed a dark web bounty mission to assassinate a student. His partner furiously cursed him for hunting awakened cultivators. Meanwhile, 𝖬 intensely studied the Infernal Aspect's brutal awakening requirements. Step 1. Secure official government clearance to legally hoard demonic disciples. Step 2. Rip an Infernal Aspect demon core from a beast. Step 3. Master the Infernal Aspect arts. After aggressively leveling up their martial skills, he handed out customized epic quests to his disciples. Only Yin's dangerous Infernal Awakening was left. Since the bureaucracy required dragging through the cultivator's headquarters, 𝖬 decided to solo this mission. Beating this quest meant Yin could finally walk openly among humans, safely. Glaring at the system prompt, he saw the required core must be harvested from a terrifying golden core stage boss, the Master Illusionist, the Blazing Antelope. 𝖬's gamer instincts felt suspicious. Normally, epic quests spawned inside hidden dungeons, but this target was pinged right in the middle of an exposed wasteland. Suddenly, a menacing cloaked assassin loomed on the cliff edge. The stalker locked eyes, confirming 𝖬. He checked a bloody bounty poster. The shadow killer sneered, declaring a massive hit was placed on 𝖬, and told him to accept his grim fate. Our main character, yawning with zero fear, bluntly asked who he was. The weird man acted super mysterious. 𝖬 felt absolutely nothing. Zero aura. Then, in a flash, the mysterious figure materialized right behind him. The guy scoffed, calling his reflexes worse than a grandma on a midnight stroll. Suddenly, a deadly beam blasted forward. The explosive shockwave obliterated the earth, but as the dust settled, his target had completely vanished into thin air. 𝖬 casually gripped the attacker's skull. The cloaked assassin froze in pure disbelief, as our boy coolly criticized his terrible manners. Demanding a name and the bounty poster's boss, 𝖬 only pushed the hooded stranger into a blazing, unhinged fury. A monstrous shockwave of pure aura erupted, forcing our hero to slide back. How dare this kid treat him like trash? Thick smoke swallowed the battlefield. Using the cover, the assassin blitzed forward, launching a lethal roundhouse kick straight at 𝖬's head. But our main character effortlessly sidestepped. The guy violently pivoted, unleashing a savage follow-up strike, which 𝖬 smoothly ducked under. The missed blow crushed the bedrock beneath them. The assassin smirked, trashing 𝖬 for playing a pathetic game of tag. Done playing around, the villain triggered an inescapable area of effect ultimate move. Light escape, cage of light. Before 𝖬 could even blink, a colossal, eye-searing beam detonated, completely obliterating everything across the entire zone. Miles away, his partner noticed the blinding explosion. He scowled, totally baffled as to why his buddy blew his ultimate trump card. What kind of monster needs that much firepower? As the destructive glare finally faded, it revealed a massive, smoking crater. With 𝖬's aura completely erased, the cocky hitman assumed his deadly contract was finished. He was already dreaming of his massive paycheck of premium spirit stones. But as the haze parted, a haunting silhouette stood completely unharmed. 𝖬 smirked, confessing he only dragged this out to see if the assassin's flashy techniques were worth stealing for his own arsenal. The skill was definitely spicy. Honestly, if our guy hadn't thrown up a defensive barrier, that blast would have actually stung. The cloaked guy was utterly speechless. He blocked a legendary finisher with a basic shield. Still, he felt absolutely zero human life force. Our main character chuckled, dropping a massive plot twist. The thing talking wasn't even alive. He revealed a decoy rock with a hilariously derpy face sketched on it, perfectly matching the bounty poster. The hitman was absolutely flabbergasted. Realizing he massively messed up, the coward immediately bolted, swearing he would claim that sweet bounty another day. But out of absolutely nowhere, a brutal fist materialized. The real 𝖬 stepped out of the shadows, delivering a devastating gut punch. The kinetic impact literally shattered the earth. The flaming antelope assassin was instantly obliterated, dropping a premium beast core and a rare camouflage skill. Finally, the pieces clicked. No wonder he failed to sense this sneaky sheep demon earlier. That absolute god-tier stealth ability explained everything. Plus, this monster core was an insanely rare drop loaded with dual elemental traits. He casually decided to use it as a wild bonus prize for his squad's next hangout. Suddenly, the crumpled wanted poster drifted into his hands. Snatching it, his eye twitched in pure annoyance. The garbage sketch looked absolutely nothing like him. Meanwhile, eerie silence choked the spring recruitment arena. The crowd grew restless, desperately waiting for the legendary chief examiner to finally kick off the trials. The intense, heavy atmosphere made this year's bloody competition feel infinitely more ruthless. This monumental clash of titans gathered the absolute most cracked, top-tier prodigies from the almighty great sects. VIP seats lined the absolute front row, packed with elite contenders violently sweating through their pre-test jitters. Suddenly, a random disciple squinted, spotting a suspicious figure lacking main character candidate vibes. How did a complete nobody sneak into this sacred arena? The girl beside him smirked, bragging that she was actually young Master Li's new girlfriend. Golden Spoon disciples from major sects held special privileges to bring their entourages inside. That massive flex just made the dude violently jealous. The crowd quietly gossiped, whispering about how this older woman totally bagged the youthful master. She shamelessly bragged about robbing the cradle, mercilessly dumping her absolute loser ex-boyfriend to secure a rich, elite sect disciple. The nosy guy instantly pictured the dumped ex as some dirt-poor, pathetic stepping stone, a weakling who could do nothing but cry as an elite cultivator stole his girl. She laughed, agreeing the trash ex just had to swallow his pride. He stood zero chance against a god-tier rival. Right as they began joking about the ex probably dying in a ditch, the woman's smug face suddenly drained of color. The guy frantically asked what happened. Trembling, she whispered about a suffocating, bloodthirsty killing intent. Panicking, the guy violently whipped his head around. He, Yin, and Qianhui stood like reapers. Our MC unleashed a death glare, instantly draining the blood from the man's terrified face. He was completely clueless why this monster wanted to murder him. Qianhui coldly snitched to He, claiming these peasants had just mocked his height. Yin ruthlessly chimed in, swearing she heard them calling his style totally lame. The invisible stealth fiend also echoed the brutal rumor about his ex tossing him for a rich sect boy. He stayed dead silent, radiating menace as the squad casually claimed the absolute front row. Sweat poured down the guy's face, prompting the girl to ask why he was suddenly panicking. He stammered about stepping on a massive landmine. Meanwhile, the girl noticed a familiar shadow nearby. Her jaw dropped. It was Yi. She ripped off her sunglasses, refusing to believe that trash was here. What gave a loser like him the right to chill in the VIP zone? His cultivation aptitude was literally rock bottom. Did this absolute zero somehow stumble into a miracle? She instantly scoffed. Impossible. He was probably faking it, playing the exact same game as her, clinging to a top-tier student just to flex online. Li Junhao asked if they knew each other. She coldly denied it, brushing off the topic by claiming she was mistaken. No way she associated with nobodies. Soon after, an imposing figure stepped to the cliff edge, silencing the crowd to boom out the tournament rules. The elder declared the spring recruitment would ignite with a brutal group battle royale. Group MVPs scoring the highest points would clash in a one-on-one elimination bracket until a champion emerged. Tap out, and you lose. If the examiners decide you are beaten too bloody to continue, you are officially out. Once the match ends, throwing another punch is strictly forbidden. Chen Huai whispered, asking if that was the Grandmaster. Yi nodded, sensing an intensely transcendent aura radiating from him. Still, Yi barely cared. The elder pivoted, bowing deeply to ask the Grandmaster for permission to commence. A regal man in blue robes commanded the central throne, flanked by a rigid-suited guy and a shirtless crimson warrior. The surprisingly young Grandmaster gave a subtle nod. With that, the brutal exams officially kicked off. Glancing at the bracket, Yi realized they were both dead last in their group queues. Group A's first fighters stepped up. A guy rocking crimson pants locked eyes with a silver-haired opponent. Crimson Pants was Tyrant Body Sex Sun Ming. His rival, Earth Spirit Sex prodigy, Shi Nantian. Ming smirked, demanding to know how long Nantian planned to keep that arrogant, deadpan face. Exploding from his stance, Ming teleported right into Nantian's face in a split second. Nantian flinched, but Nantian barely dodged the bone-crushing fist at the absolute last microsecond. Realizing Ming's terrifying lethal speed, Nantian instantly triggered Earth Escape to fall back. The arena quaked. He countered with devastating stone rain, launching massive boulders straight toward Ming's skull. Ming's agility was insane. He flawlessly weaved through the falling rebel, closing the gap untouched and boasting his speed. Could rival experts an entire major realm higher. Nantian leaped frantically, avoiding a vicious sweeping kick. Perfect. Ming wanted him airborne, but Nantian coldly declared that even with zero room to dodge, Ming also had absolutely nothing left to stand on. His eyes widened in pure panic. He looked down. The arena floor beneath him had crumbled into a massive, inescapable abyss. Nantian had perfectly orchestrated the Earth Escape trap. Checkmate. Ming plummeted into the void. Earth Spirit Sex Shi Nantian seized victory. Alright, that wraps up today's epic story. For your weekly chapter drops on this series, go check out my second channel, Manhua Updater. Do not miss the next insane power-up. Hit subscribe and join the update gang. Thanks for watching. Stay cool, stay awesome, and see you in the next one.